All right, welcome to Music Maniacs, your number one grassroots source for all things rock news, metal, classic heavy metal. Dr. Brown, how you doing, my brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's it hanging, buddy?
Good. We have a big show today. Obviously, continuing on honoring Ozzy Osbourne.
Hmm.
As others should, if they, if you're a wrestling show, if you're a wrestling channel or show, you should continue to honor Hulk Hogan, all things Hulk
Hmm.
Hogan,
Oh,
in my opinion. Or if obviously if you have an NBA basketball channel, Kobe Bryant that passed away, you should be honoring Kobe Bryant, you know what
mhm.
I'm saying?
I
Um,
know.
but last week we went into the Ozzy solo albums, took a deep dive, had memories of it and everything. This week we're going to dive into the classic lineup, the classic Black Sabbath albums with Ozzy,
Hmm.
which there's a total of how many, Dr. Brown?
I think there's a total of nine, if I'm correct, and starting with the first album, and of course ending with 13.
And okay, and is there a live album that's the classic lineup ever officially released, almost like Live After Death with Iron Maiden and
Actually,
Unleashed in
there,
the
there
East with
actually there
Priest?
actually there was a reunion which came out in the 1998, and it was recorded in their hometown of Birmingham, England. It was a full maximum show. I remember having a CD for it, and a couple years, not years back after Heaven and Hell came out, NEMS, one of their UK labels, released it 5 years before live release, titled "Live at Last." It was recorded on the Volume 4 tour. I remember having that album as well. But I guess the proper album to pick up would have to be Reunion from 1998 with the classic original lineup.
All right, so we'll include that. We'll dive into that in the set list on that, or the songs on that album. But well, let's dive into the music news quickly, and then
Hmm.
we'll dive into that. We go live every week, guys, Thursdays.
Hmm.
Also on the Dr. Brown channel, check him
Hmm.
out. We are in conjunction. We are
Yep.
cross streaming. We are,
Well, actually,
interlocking
you're the one
together.
that's actually you're the one that's
Yes.
streaming right now. Right now it's just I'm on your
Well,
end, but now the
you still put up the show and everything. You know what I mean. So,
correct. Yes, that's right
but
there.
we do have the news, and let's dive
Or
into the Vince Neil's
speculation.
more
Yeah,
speculation, everything. But
speculation.
the Vince Neil stuff, I prepared this video and I put it out there, and I was listening to Eddie Trunk the other day, and Vince Neil came back solo concert
Hmm.
this past weekend with Bret Michaels and Stephen Pearcy, all solo acts, build. Obviously, Bret Michaels being the headliner. It was an average like a $50 ticket. People were saying, but
Wow.
those same people were saying if they had to pay like 200 or 300 for Motley Crue version with Neil at this point, it's not good at all. Multiple people were
Mhm.
saying that, but they were saying for a $50 ticket, I mean, it was a good time regardless.
Mhm.
And people were speculating, why wasn't Motley Crue at the Back to the Beginning? Did they want the money? Did they want, rumors came out about that like 3 weeks ago. But it shut down because Vince Neil had definitely health issues. In that video I posted, he did say that in the past couple months he had some health issues. Now he never said anything about a stroke, but
Yeah, but
people were saying
they
that
usually
Brett Michaels was talking about brain issues, blah blah blah. Also, when people have a stroke, sometimes their facial features change, and you could tell Vince's face was different, definitely looking like he did have a stroke, suffer from a stroke. The audio, I don't know if you floated around and looked at any recent audio or videos from that concert, but Vince Neil sounded horrible. Last year he did they did
yes.
a couple club shows, UK club show, and they were sounding really good. But what did you think about all that and that video and everything, Dr. Brown? Go ahead.
Well, first and foremost, if Vince Neil did have a stroke, most likely they're going to keep that information on the download because they don't want the press to get all jump on that like they did jump on his weight gain from years ago. I mean, like so many things have been pointed at Vince Neil, from the lack of singing that he was used to do, from the weight gain that he went through, and everything else. And I guess what he doesn't want to do is simply boom. He doesn't want to have any more issues being directed towards him from everyone on social media. Because you remember how many people jumped on his case for the way he wasn't able to sing like he used to when he was all ballooned up like he was. And obviously, Vince Neil doesn't want that happening once again. Now, if he did have a stroke, it's possibly that can affect the way you speak, let alone sing. And I did see the footage that you sent me. It's like he was mostly moving around a little slowly, holding his mic and microphone stand and
Yes,
such. Yeah,
like he aged 10 or 15 years or something. I mean, he
kind of
looks a
like
lot
yes,
he looks a lot skinnier than compared to like within the last decades, and
I
I know
know.
within the last 5 years, I believe before, like right around that stadium tour time,
Yeah,
like right before that, there were, documenting him losing weight on a weight loss journey and everything, which he
yes,
did. He lost a lot of weight compared to 8 or 10 years
to what it
ago,
was.
but
Yeah, but
this quote unquote stroke. Okay, and we're kind of the first. I mean, there's other people, obviously Eddie Trunk talked, but not they didn't really deep dive into it. But in that video, Eddie Trunk does say that yes, there is rumors on that he's heard of for sure within the industry. But Dr.
yes.
Brown, have you do you know, is like stroke in the same maybe pond as autism, to where it is a
No,
disability? It's a
no,
disability at the end of the day.
not that I don't. I don't know. Well, all depends that well, strokes has nothing to do with autism, but strokes have been able to keep people from seeing correctly, moving their arms correctly. For example, you can have a stroke and be numb in your left arm for possibly the rest of your life afterwards. There was one dude I saw on the streets of Woodward Avenue back in Detroit. He was mumbling pretty much because he had a stroke, apparently. He just started telling me all this out of the blue. So there's a good chance that that may have occurred to Vince Gill if he did have a stroke, because having a stroke can affect you in a huge way. I mean, look at singer Luther Vandross. I mean, like, he had a stroke early in the 2000s, and apparently he wasn't able to. I'm sure if it may have affected your way, it may also could affect your facial features as well, because soon after
Yes.
Vandross had that stroke, he was still only seen wearing shades and nothing else.
Well, Brown, in music history, since I guess you've been alive, we've all been alive. Is there any musicians slash people in Hollywood, actors that that had a stroke on the top off the top of your head?
Well, the only one that comes to mind was Bret the Hitman Hart. He had that, I believe, in
Oh,
the
you're right.
2000s.
Oh, you're
Yes, and I
right.
believe, and I guess he
Yeah.
worked his ass off to get it back to normal like he used to, in terms of
Yeah, like he
speaking,
can,
moving, and everything else.
like some motor functions maybe, or reaction time may be slowed down, or obviously, oh, JR, didn't Jim Ross have a stroke?
No, what he has is Bell's palsy. It's where one side of your
Oh.
face droops down automatically.
Well, that would be in the same pond as perhaps
I'm
like a
not too sure because it's a similar situation. It's not similar. It's
we'll
a
have to
two
grok
different.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, like a stroke can be brought on by a blood clot or something else, or eating habits. I'm not too sure myself. And of course, Beast Incarnates in your chat saying Jerry Lawler had a stroke. Actually, he had a heart attack live during the taping of
Oh,
Raw. You may remember that alongside him and Michael Cole. I mean,
that's
like, he had
true.
to
Well, I
be
mean,
reeled out on this.
it's all health issues at the end of the day.
That's true.
Now Vince Neil really didn't sound great. Like him, Guns N' Roses still kind of have a draw, and Motley Crue has a
They
draw
do.
too, of course.
Yes.
Both have huge draws, but comes to a point, Dr. Brown, it's like, I mean, what more? I mean, maybe they should have ended the stadium tour off as their final. What do you think on
Yes.
Vince Neil? Like the vote, you think he's gonna obviously keep going, but in my mind, I'm gonna throw this out there. He looked very frail, much like
You know.
Ozzy, and maybe I would not be surprised if we hear Vince Neil passed away, like
Mm,
within this next year or within this year, because he
mm,
you can always recover from strokes and you can always recover from health issues, but the doctor did tell him you will never be able to perform on stage again, and he told the doctor F you. So he's going against
remember hearing
doctor's
that as well.
orders.
Yeah.
He's going against doctor's orders, and like a lot of the wrestlers we see when you know
So did
they
Billy Idol.
Billy Idol, all these
He
people
had a
go against.
yeah. You may remember back around the start of the 1990s. He was involved in a severe motorcycle accident, and against doctor's orders, cane in hand, limping a little bit, he was able to still go on tour for the album he had at that time, Whiplash Smile.
And
And I
obviously,
guess,
I mean, it really brings me back to the Hulk Hogan thing, where, I mean, ultimately, like, the more sense making reality of it was Hulk did have these operations, you know, but he kind of went against doctor's orders he did not stay. They ordered bed rest after these
mhm,
operations, and he was out promoting his beer, on podcasts with Bischoff, promoting
mhm.
local, in local cities, news stations, and he wasn't in bed rest. And look what happened.
Yeah.
The rest
Here's something
after
else.
operation, the rest after operations is very vital and very crucial. And
Exactly. That's true.
a lot of these famous people, Brown, with their egos, they're going to do it until the day they die. So,
Yeah, but
what do you think?
well, let me also add this in there. Going back to Hulk Hogan. Well, Hogan, as was revealed, also had a form of leukemia as well as a heart attack that ended his life. You got to remember, Hogan, is one of those guys that don't like to sit down all the time, like to get and move around. Remember, he's trying to promote his real American beer. And let me throw this out there. And this is directly to the people who booed him when he popped out with Jimmy Hart at that night, Monday Night Raw, made its debut on Netflix in LA. After doing that to the guy, what are they thinking now that he's passed away? Do they regret what doing that to him? Or are they that stubborn to believe, oh, yeah, he had it coming because he came out in support of Donald Trump? What are you thinking nowadays, now that Hulkster is no longer with us? Something to think about. All right. You there, Wire? Dude? All right, there.
Hello.
Hello there. I was waiting
Yeah,
for
go
you to
ahead. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to wait
Okay,
for
I
me. You can
was.
talk. Go ahead.
Oh,
Whatever
there.
else is on
Well,
your
I
mind
said,
about it.
no, that was all I had to say about that particular subject. But either way, going back to Vince Neil, it's like the man
Yes.
has had a lot of health issues for God knows how many few years, from the weight gain, to this problem, that problem. And this is probably one of the good reasons why nobody out there should get involved with drug use in their lives, let alone in their music careers, movie careers, because years on down the line, that can have effect on your health issues years on down the line. Because
Now,
if I'm correct, drug use can somewhat diminish your immune system. If I'm correct
yes,
on that. Yes.
especially when you're
All right,
older.
there.
Did you get the? Okay, so um, did you know, Brown,
Hmm.
that uh, Give me a minute. Take over because I had I had a thing written up here.
All right, and you got a brain
C-Man,
fart.
C-Man. Yeah, I had a brain fart.
What's up?
C-Man, did you know that Keith passed away July 25th? Like the same day they buried Ozzy.
Hmm.
He died, C-Man. So, and I don't know why you didn't put up a video, Brown, on your channel. I didn't see nothing.
Well, I was kind of busy at my job for a lot of reasons there, so
You'll put one up this
was
week?
very busy. I don't know. I'll just say this, and we'll let that rest. We thank him for the contributions to the music shows we did with you and I and Ark Noya. Even though a lot of times you spoke out of turn, talk about Jamaican rap when we're talking about classic rock or country rock, But however, I will say there, Keith, you
Well,
will be missed.
he still was talking music at the end of the day on that. He was
I know,
you know,
yes.
um, so yeah, another one in the community passed away.
Yeah.
Complex situation. But
Was it triple C's?
if I was a betting man, I would definitely bet on that for sure. That would be my number one
Okay,
over anything.
I
But
know.
uh, really, oh, you're in C-Man's chat. I mean, you're in Jake's chat, C-Man. And everyone pray for
Nice.
Jake. Everyone pray for
All right,
Jake
there.
publicly. He's going through health issues, but I told him, hey man, you pretty much went through hell already, so much hell already that you can push through and get to whatever you got to deal with now.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, we'll see, man.
mm.
Welcome to Music Maniacs, Chantel, Alex Lager. We are Music Maniacs. We are your number one
Yep.
source for all things rock news, music, and everything.
Hmm.
Um, let me think here. I had
And
a really
speaking of
good.
Ozzy,
y-
I know
Yes,
you
go ahead.
mentioned that all the flowers, cards,
Yes,
pictures, and everything else was removed from that Black Sabbath bridge in England there. And I guess they laid. I saw a video clip on how they were doing that. They were laying out all the things separately in a steel line.
that's
They were
cool.
taking very. It's very was a lot of stuff they had to remove, and I guess they're going to send all that stuff to members of Ozzy's family, which is pretty good there.
And the mulch, they made the flowers into mulch, and they're spreading it on the property and the grave site where Ozzy is on their property. Huge estate
Yes.
next to this
Wow.
pond.
Wow.
Um, which is really nice. So yeah, they're
So I'm still,
uh,
I'm still having. It's still kind of hard to believe that Ozzy is no longer with us
well, that
because
and
after years, I know,
The both were gut punches, but both
I
together.
know,
The Hogan
both
and
were
I mean
gut punches.
that's you know
Both were equally gut punches to all of us because both were entertainers in their own right. Hulk Hogan was entertainment in the sports combat division, whereas Ozzy Osbourne was just not in music, but also reality TV and movie appearances, a couple commercials, and everything else.
and I am putting out a video tomorrow on what they're doing with Ozzy's the gifts from the fans, the flowers. I put together a whole montage on
Yes,
that. It'll be coming out tomorrow.
yes.
But
Speaking of
oh, okay.
Ozzy,
So the tribute videos that I went
mhm.
to last weekend.
Oz,
Yes, it was hot.
I saw them
Number
as well.
one, but the guitar player was
Mhm.
probably on steroids because he looked like Triple H
I
or some
know,
type of.
I know, I know. Is that old pro wrestler who you went under the name Von Hammer, who worked at WCW ages ago? Because
Did he
like
used to
he
be?
kind of,
He used to play music.
I'm not too sure, but I'm sure that was a gimmick. It was no doubt a gimmick because I remember reading in the WCW magazine what kind of heavy metal music albums does he have, and the ones he mentioned were Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, Vixen, Rev It Up, and this other album, which were current at that time. He never went back to heavy metal albums from the past or in between. So that tells me that that was the heavy metal guitar player that he pretended to be was no doubt a gimmick.
All right, so the Ozzy tribute videos that um you saw, what did you like about it? I mean, obviously I was right in front. It got packed quick, around probably
Well, obviously,
a couple hundred people maybe or whatever, but the main, it wasn't even the opening, it was like a Metallica tribute for the main act, but so it was a shorter set. It wasn't like an hour and a half set, but it was all of the Ozzy solos songs. Not all, but the main ones. And then obviously a few Sabbath. Your NIBs, your
mhm.
Paranoids. I left before Crazy Train, which was the last song, but I left in the middle of Paranoid. Just here, a lot of those overplayed songs. I don't need to record or
I
whatever, and blah
know,
blah
yeah.
blah. But
Well, I saw
we
Oz a couple of times at the Concert Pub in North in Houston on 1960 Road. Have you ever been to that place by the chance?
negative.
Oh man, sometime if a good
It's
tribute band
outdoor.
or original band,
It's outdoors
it's
or indoors.
indoors. It's indoors. It's mostly an indoor venue, except for the Accept gig that I saw back in 2022. But it
Yeah, I
is a good,
remember that
nice
video.
place to check out. Yes. But remember, I guess the guys try to be Zach Wild, I guess you could say there, because usually in a tribute band, usually required to have one or two members dress up as the main members of the group. Like we could have Ozzy impersonating Ozzy Osbourne. We could have the singer looking like and sound like Ozzy, and the guy impersonating Randy Rhoads, while the drummer and bass player go on stage looking like their normal selves. I know
Yes.
there's a tribute group called Roads to Oz, who's one of the members I'm friends on Facebook with, and that's usually how they set it up. And the unique thing about this tribute act, it only does material from the Ozzy Randy era, those two records, and I guess nothing else.
Well, I like a good, and they're hard to find, but the Sabbath tribute bands, which I think
Hmm.
you should, and you would be perfect in guitar
Yes.
player. But
Hmm.
Sabbath, I mean, and most of them do the Ozzy solo and Sabbath stuff together, right? But
Yes.
the Sabbath stuff isn't usually like deeper tracks. It's usually your
Hmm.
Paranoid, your NIBs, your you know Iron Man. I dread those
War
songs because
Pigs.
they're great songs. Yeah, War Pigs. I don't want to say I dread those songs, but they are overplayed. I would say
Agreed.
like I mean, out of all those, like War Pigs and NIB, like I'll take over Iron Man and Paranoid for sure.
Yes. You know what?
But
I
those
let me
four, yes.
Well, let me say this, and the ones who only know
No,
those
no.
songs are, I guess, the casuals, as they put it. The ones who only know those songs plain and simple. Like they only know I Don't Know, Crazy Train, or Mama Coming Home, or No More Tears. And definitely got
Yeah,
to
but I
get
would
into
even
those deep
say, bro,
tracks.
yeah, I wouldn't even like some of. I mean, Aussie solo stuff. I would just throw like Crazy Train. I feel like if you know the No More Tears, if you know all the stuff on the first record, I mean, yeah, you hear it all the time, like you just said, but I feel like there's a little bit less Ozzy solo, casual songs in Sabbath.
Mhm.
Dave, can we get Dave on the call? Because I'd like to, and just for the
Tell you
record, like
what,
I like to get him on to ask him his reactions
well,
on. Real
we'll see
quick,
if
let
you
me
could.
finish. Real quick,
Go
let me
ahead.
finish because
Go
I
ahead,
want
dude.
his reactions. I want his reactions on Hulk Hogan and Ozzy passing away. We haven't gotten that live with him. I mean, it'll take very quickly, but just for the record, and I'm dying to hear Dave's opinion on all that. I mean, obviously, major. This channel was basically birthed and grown from the Back to the Beginning concert, from 90 subs to almost 800
Mhm.
to almost 900. We're on the road to 1,000 subs here on this channel.
All
Um,
right.
and I did upload a short from. I'm going to be posting some old concert videos from the past few years. It's on
Hmm.
my Rumble. So I got the KK's Priest, a short up there, and I'm gonna obviously do the video. And I got the Zach Wild when he played in front of me for the Black Sabbath. I put that up as a short. Um, but I'm gonna put the link in the chat. Oh, we have Dave right now.
He's
Oh,
in
sweet.
the.
Devious
Hey,
Dave
James.
Rose.
All right. What's going on, my man?
Well, all you got to do is
That's-
say my name. But
I was going to
All right, so
DM you.
let's.
you
Well, he
were,
was
but
already in the chat, Brian. Yeah, he's in the chat, Brian.
Nice. Like I said, I was going to DM you and see if we were ready to join the show, but
that's
no
why
needs
I
it now.
post the links channel on my Discord that you can drop your videos
Ah,
prior to starting them, and then people will know, hey, Dr. Earl's streaming. Let's tune in.
Now, last week's
right.
video did get over 10,000 views, so we are on the road to 1,000 subs. And you know, whether I'm always gonna, and it's a good thing, I'm always gonna honor Ozzy on the channel because that back to the beginning, you know, kind of exploded the channel. But me putting the concert videos, it's real views, it's real numbers, it's real, you know, and a lot of the AI stuff I mix and create and everything, and you know, it's nice, people like
No,
it. But Dave,
you're
yes.
in regards to that, you are following standard that works. Everyone else is doing the same thing, getting good views. Is that when you make short videos that people can just quickly scroll through, it informs people, because again, you're informing people constantly of news that's happening in the music industry. You're giving concert footage as well. So those little shorts, I guess, certainly satisfy a certain percentage of the market that's there, that's subscribed to you, provides content that's quick to consume but also enjoyable, and you produce multiple throughout the day. So it's obviously fitting an equation that works. And plus, people tune into shows like this where you guys are talking about music news and the deeper meanings of things. And that moves on to your next question as to the death of both Ozzy Osbourne and Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, like how did you find out? Like, you know, start with the basics, you know.
Well, I always get my breaking news from the internet, and yeah, like that's how I learned about Ozzy dying. I believe somebody told me about Ozzy, and I think
I was one of them.
But yeah, I think you were the first to hit me up about Ozzy's death, and it was a surprise to me. I did, though I wasn't really, because it was just like, remember when the Ultimate Warrior went and did his little final speech, and literally a day or two later he died?
Yep, I remember that as well.
I had that feeling. About the concert. I didn't really like to think about it, but I thought to myself, this guy is going through progression and stuff, and he's certainly, I mean, some supernatural forces holding this guy together. He literally should not be alive. He literally shouldn't. And he was able to put on that show, even with, you know, his limited ability. He put it on quite well. And to have experienced that again with the concert and stuff, I think that's a memory. If you know, even if you didn't see it live, that's a memory that I would love to have experienced. YR watched the entire thing live through his connection on the internet, but that currently isn't available to people like me who just want to buy a 5-6 DVD.
Well, there is an update on that. There is an update. I'm gonna put a video out on that. That if you go on eBay, it's like around $50. You can get the Blu-ray. Someone made them. It's not official.
Oh, no,
it's bootleg, but it is Blu-ray, and it's really good.
Now that you tell me that, and I suspected that was going to happen eventually. I just didn't. I haven't been looking into it because, again, I've got other things going on. But that's awesome that I could probably download that.
It looks like the case, the physical case. It's a real Blu-ray case. I mean, it looks like you bought it at Best Buy or something, but it's like $50.
No, he probably made it then. Because again, there's no official. And I remember, again, I said this during the show. It's just that this needs to be, when we talked about the show, this needs to be made to DVDs, Blu-rays, whatever. But it has to be physical copy that you can buy, and you can have it in your library and watch it whenever you fucking want. And a a week or two later, they announced that it's going to be a theatrical release where they've just trimmed everything down to about 100 minutes. And I personally would love to be able to see the transition between bands, to see the roadies setting shit up, to hear the crowd just chanting and stuff. I want that full 9-hour experience that you got, plus that T-shirt.
I believe that's what they did with you.
Even it's like a real concert where whenever your favorites or whatever something you like comes into town, hint the phrase, comes into town, visits in town, that's your opportunity, to take, buy the stream or go to the concert, pay for the ticket, and it's better to do that than let it pass, because what do you really gain from not going to see nothing? You know what I mean? And
going back to your question, it was a shock to see that Ozzy died. Again, but it wasn't out of my mind, because again, I thought to myself, this is very possibly something cognizant. He knows that he's just got a little bit of time left and he's got to pull this off now, or maybe, he says, okay, I did it. I did the concert, even in my frail stage. I did the concert. Everything is over. I've accomplished everything I wanted to do, including having one of the best retirement fucking concerts ever. I've done it all. I can now rest in peace. And his body maybe just decided, okay, we agree, and we're gonna shut down with you, and that's it. But either way, it was certainly a shock to hear that, but it wasn't out of reality. Now, when it comes to Hulk Hogan, that certainly was something that was also shocking, and it's evident that there's a lot of people that really don't know the effort that he put into everything that made him the icon that he was. And it's also disgusting to see a lot of people sort of talking shit about him, and because of certain words he said, and not acknowledging the fact that this guy was a good guy. And even he had unconfirmed leukemia. I wasn't announcing it to the people, and he was still going to hospital. He was fighting it, but he was also going to hospitals, talking to kids who had cancer and stuff, and trying to boost their spirits and so forth. So even in his final days, he was still being the Hulkster. And to cap it off before I end, during his funeral in Florida, above the skies, multiple witnesses said and took photos of a cloud formation that looked like Hogan, as he would traditionally do, where he stretched out one arm and sort of curled the bicep with the other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if
yes, I saw
like
that.
This.
Yes,
like this.
Did you see that, Brown?
No, I did not know about this until now. It's like, I guess it was a way of saying he's
social
now
media.
But multiple
cool,
witnesses just at Hulk Hogan's funeral alone witnessed and photographed that. And then there's the people that just noticed that walking around and stuff, that they took photos of that too. So I don't believe in coincidence, but it seems to be that God is also a Hulkamaniac.
Mm. Well, Hulk was close to God. Every time he went on the match, he would do this, for a little prayer, cross his heart thing to make sure everything was okay. So obviously he found new spiritual guidance from the good one above.
Well, and then to close out the death segment of the channel, and just for the record, Dave Rose, I'm sure you heard that Keith passed away following these two deaths. Your opinions, negative, positive on that?
Well, I did a stream the other day, Chill Hangout, where I just discussed the topic at hand. So, but I will say this: I'm sure that you were devastated because you were quite close to Keith.
And that would go for anyone, and I'm sure people could, if Mellow Yellow passed away, I'm sure Ken would be sad.
No, because
you know what I'm saying?
Ken is close to, Mellow. I'm not close to Mellow, so if Mellow expires, I might even, throw a party. So again, there's a difference.
Okay, will you be framing Keith's obituary? Was he ever on that list?
No, he was never actually on the wall of obituaries.
Wow. Okay. Well, there you go, Keith. And he always loved watching you, like you were his favorite, whether you liked
Well,
it or not.
he did change
He-
multiple times. He'd say comments, "No, Dave's not my favorite no more. It's YR. No, it's not YR no more. It's Ken." And
Tony from Revere, he did that a couple times.
He did flip flop, but I would say multiple deaths happen in this community.
Well, that's the thing, though, is also shocking. That was also a shocking death because it came out of the blue. It wasn't like it was being advertised like this person is dying and whatever.
Well, how did you find out? Because Joe Cronin told me first.
Did he?
He sent me the obituary link, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
One of my
I couldn't believe it, Dave.
One of my sparrows told me, and I was just like, "What?" So I checked it out, and then I tried to do some investigation, but there's no police reports about any deaths with Keith Barber. So clearly the police weren't involved. But there's you can't get a death report. At least I haven't been able to find one as to what exactly was the cause of that. So whether some people have, and again, even people who don't like me have said this, it could have been an OD, could have been a suicide, could have been some angry parent that beat them to death. And I'm just saying that's what they said. Okay, I'm not saying it, but
I think it's an overdose.
I think he took about 2 to 3 boxes of them triple C's, bro.
Yeah, because one time you may remember why. Because you may remember why. Or you called me out of the blue. You guys were not live, and you were like, "Brown, take a look at Keith's face." And Keith was like way zoned out on whichever stuff he was on. Way eyes wide open, like saying, "Holy cow!" Take a look at Keith. Do you have anything to say to Keith? I tried to talk to Keith a little bit, and Keith was like,
we tried, bro. I remember Ken telling his story that he had a friend that died by suicide, and Ken in the past, said like he felt bad that maybe he wanted to reach out to him, but like we did talk to him, multiple people throughout the years, from C-Man to me to Dave to Ken, to obviously Brown and others, saying like obviously the pill taking, the triple C's wasn't cool. It's not cool. Stop. So that's all you can do.
It never was.
Well, he did say that he was cured, but I guess now that's absolutely positive. So
I just feel bad for his mom. You know what I'm saying? But
I don't know. His mom kind of
threw him to the wayside at the.
The guy wasn't weird. I mean, he was weird. He wasn't normal from the get-go. I would have been very cautious about what he was doing. So.
Well, another one bites the dust, as they say, Dave. And, these are all shocking deaths. Whether you like the people, you think Hulk Hogan's a racist or not. What do you think? This about that guy, like very shocking deaths all at once. Very interesting, but we got all that out of the way.
Well, let me say one more thing about those words that Hulk Hogan used in that audio leak. I don't believe he was ever racist to begin with. That's the people on social media reacted like that. Oh, who hears somebody say the N-word for the first time, like, oh, they're really racist, without looking at the complex of why Hogan said those words. Apparently, his daughter Brooke, who still very attractive, who tried to make it as a singer but flopped instantly, unfortunately. She was dating some black dude, and I guess Hogan was concerned about that because most of the times when young daughters of celebrities get involved with some guys, usually the guys that they get involved with are usually out for their money, like Kevin Federline was when he came to Britney Spears. And I guess Hogan was concerned about that. He wanted to know if this guy had a job of his own, was able to make his own money instead of mooching off of Brooke. Because there are male gold diggers out there, besides from women gold diggers. I mean, I said that a few times.
Yes. All right. So the first Black Sabbath album.
Oh yeah.
With Ozzy. What year did that come out, Brown?
I believe it came out in the beginning of 1970 and was probably the shortest album recorded in the length of time. It took about a whole day to record, about 24 hours, basically live with a couple overdubs here and there and here. and it came out. It came out on Warner Brothers here in the States. It came out on Vertical in the UK. And as I mentioned before, the original UK version of the album had a gatefold featuring the band's logo, an upside down cross with this dark ass poem.
Wait, did the UK version did they get released in the UK before the American release, North American release?
I'm not too sure. I believe usually they do that. I guess
Yes.
the UK comes out first. Then it comes over here in America. And obviously the boys at Warner Brothers Records, their US label, decided, hey, we can't have this we cannot have this upside down cross. This would cause a lot of commotion. So as a result, they made the first album a one sleeve, just a regular sleeve, no gatefold. And that was a version I originally got on vinyl years back after hearing the cassette copy.
How many songs are on the first album?
Oh, it's a lot of them. Well, actually, what it was, I guess you could say about 7, I guess. But at that time, the record company would also add these little extra titles. For example, on the UK version, the last 2 tracks on the album was Behind the Wall of Sleep and NIB, whereas in the US, the beginning of Behind the Wall of Sleep, da 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 da, was called Wasp. And the bass solo that Geezer did prior to NIB kicking in was called Basically.
Well, hold on. Let's rewind it though to the band Earth. Is there an official album with Dave? That's the pre-band of Sabbath. It was called Earth. Or Mother Earth, or both, wasn't it?
Just Earth. Well, it was Earth. Before that, they were known as a Polka Turk Blues Band.
Yep. They went through a few names, I remember.
Yes. And I believe the only demo they made as Earth was a song called The Rebel. I remember hearing that one time.
That was with Ozzy on vocals, or no?
Yep, absolutely. Ozzy was her front man for The Word Go when they first formed.
I wonder why they changed from the band Earth to.
Well, the reason for that was simple. The band was in a room somewhere. They looked across the street. They saw people lined up to see the movie Black Sabbath with Boris Karloff, which came out in 1963. And a couple of guys figured, hey, if people pay good money to see a horror movie get scared to death, why don't we try to do the same thing with music? And they had a lot to talk about in terms of scary stuff. They were talking about their environment. They came from poverty, violence, pollution, all that kind of stuff. Plus, a little mix of reality situations here and there. Take, for example, the story behind Hand of Doom, which is a very gritty one. Listen to that a couple of times and think twice about doing drugs after hearing that song.
Well, the first album isn't on my top 3. Isn't on my. I mean, I would throw it in the top 5 of my favorites. But Brown, can we list the song listing on the first album, please?
Okay, the song starts out with the song Black Sabbath, which is inspired by a paranormal experience that Geezer Butler went through when they first got together. The second track is The Wizard, based on the wizards from the Lord of the Rings. Oh my
God, that's my favorite song. That's my favorite Sabbath song, top 5 or something, Dave, by the way. Really good song. That's the one that's the harmonica, guys. That's the one with the harmonica.
Ozzy did that harmonica, by the way. Yep.
And I do want to add quickly about the harmonica. Is that something that we saw so much in the early 60s, especially with the folk scene? And personally, I love the fucking harmonica. It could be with country music. It could be, heavy metal. It could be just hillbilly, rock, whatever. But it's like the banjo. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I love both of those instruments. They sound fucking awesome. And how amazing the harmonica is by not only being able to be part of folk, but it's also part of heavy metal. And we see that transition. I love the history of music because you do see that folk did influence certain sounds and how you can see the harmonica move to heavy metal, still be used and still be fully fit for that sound.
Yep. Let's not forget the harmonica solo on both You Shook Me and Nobody's Fault for Mine by Led Zeppelin.
Well, a very, very famous singer that canceled some dates last year always wore the harmonica with it's like a neck metal holder.
I know who you're talking. John Popper from Blues Traveler. He was cited as the Hendrix of the harmonica.
Him, but he copied off Vince Young.
Vince Young, or another
not
harmonica.
Vince Young. What's his name? Neil Young.
Neil Young.
Yes. Neil Young.
Neil Young. YR. It's Neil Young because he had a harmonica a couple of times on the song Old Man.
All right, whatever.
Well, just like him, I share a similarity. He's also a Canadian piece of shit.
Well,
Dr. Brown.
You guys didn't know he's super liberal.
Yes.
I'm not liberal.
Oh yeah.
Dr. Brown, did you we'll finish the listing and then I need your favorite song off that album.
Oh, well, my favorite song had to be the whole album altogether because
no, you have to pick. No. It's not.
It's difficult. No. Well, actually, I would have to say the song Black Sabbath would have to be my favorite because I remember the tone, the beginning, the topic behind the song. It is the
beginning of a whole new deal, a whole new sound, guys. That people like imagine. But what year did you first hear that?
Is that the whole band? See, that's another thing. Is that there are albums that are basically really one album. It's one song. You can't split it up, even though they have to, and they give timestamps and all that. And okay, we'll call it something, different. But it's the whole album's the song. So to sort of split it up is very difficult to do, and I don't think it gives the song the proper justice, or the album the proper justice, when you only pick out certain things. That's a very Apple Music, Spotify type thing where you take out one song from an album, but that belongs in the album because the whole album is telling the story.
Well, Brown, what year did you first hear, or was that your first Sabbath exposure, the first album, the first song and all that?
Absolutely.
Well, what year was that?
I think it may have been around 1982. I was a teenager back then. I've only heard Paranoid and Iron Man on the radio a couple of years prior when it was discovering rock and roll radio. But it was a neighbor's house, a cassette copy of the first album I wanted to borrow, listen to, and was like amazed by everything on it there.
Yep. Yep. You could borrow, you got to admit, and I know y'all are big vinyl heads, but like the cassette and the CD, but like cassette, it's more like you could trade them and you could borrow them. I mean, you can do that with vinyls, but it's like you put the cassette in your pocket, man. Hey, man, I'm going to go borrow for a day.
You guys really need to do a show on the cassette alone. I know that YR seems to be too young to fully grasp it's and again, like we've got Earl here who personally experienced the 8-track. I only experienced the 8-track after the fact, but never again had an 8-track or able to insert an 8-track, but I was able to insert a cassette, have multiple cassette players, Walkmans, all that. And I mean, damn, the price of the Walkman back in the day, that was a fucking luxury. It was something like, I guess, an Apple Watch or, something of high caliber that if you had that, you were doing well.
The Canadian cassette show, we can call that. Much more, I mean, look, CD is the ultimate, I mean, besides getting scratched.
But is it? But that's the thing, though, if we're going to, and that's another thing that I suggested in your Discord, which apparently you've totally disappeared from there, YR, as well as you, Earl, which I set up for you guys. But I talked about a potential story for the show where you guys discuss equipment. Like, again, if you've never heard music, especially off a vinyl player, through a system that used vacuum tubes, you have never heard music properly.
You can feel the music, right? Right, Dave. You can feel it, right? Like
it's
body,
warm.
body
That's
high.
the thing. That the only way to describe it, and that's what the audio files describe it as, is that it's warm. The warm feeling, and you can actually hear the difference and the pops and such. The cracks, the crackles. You hear the difference with vinyl, with cassette, even compared to digital, like CDs, even MP3s and stuff. You can hear a discernible difference if your ears are tuned enough for it. But that's the thing, though. Back in the day, talking about technology, we had these beautiful sound systems. We had beautiful fucking
that's what I'm saying. Vinyls is the most expensive to like collect.
But no, now okay, but that's the thing, though.
It is nowadays because
but we listen to the radio too, and we'd have equalizers and stuff. We would have good speakers. Now,
and you put you put the radio.
Yo, no, this is
you
the key.
run the radio through the speakers.
I'll shut up. I'll shut up if you give me a second. The key now, this is the problem, is people just put earphones in, iPods or whatever the fuck they're called, or like headphones on,
earbuds.
And they don't. Yeah, earpods. Thank you. But like again, they put it so like you've got noise canceling. You're hearing it too close. You're supposed to hear music when you go to the symphony. They don't give you headphones. The architecture of that building is supposed to enhance the sound that comes naturally. It doesn't even need, or should it need, speakers or anything, because it's the environment that is going to project that sound to you. Now I'm done.
And Bender of Strings in the chat says there's something tactile to the sound.
Tactical.
Of vinyl.
Absolutely. And it's hard to describe the sound if you didn't grow up with it. That's the thing. If you don't remember putting the needle down, hearing that initial scratch, maybe because the disc was warped or something, you'd hear a slight deviation in the sound. But there was something there that isn't experienced today.
All right. So did we finish the track listing on the first album, Dr. Brown?
Yeah, go ahead. Because I think it went mute. Go ahead.
Can you finish the rest of the track listing on the first album, please?
Okay, the rest. Okay, we went to side one, the song Black Sabbath, followed by The Wizard, and then, as mentioned previously, in the UK version, it was simply Behind the Wall Sleep and NIB, whereas here in the States, it was Behind the Wall Sleep, basically, and NIB. And they made that into one full track when you think about it, especially on the CD version. Because I remember I brought that one time to the show to Detroit, and that's how it worked out.
Well, how long is the first song? Isn't it like over 10 minutes or 8 minutes?
It's about 6 minutes.
Well, it's a long 6 minutes, though. It's a very slow song, Dave.
Very powerful as well.
But I would agree. Like, I would throw out the first song to be like, hey, or even the first album. Now, you would be surprised. Now, like, there's 2 albums in the catalog that are my favorite. One is my new favorite, Brown. You might be surprised. But let's move on to can you look up through AI or somebody how many copies of the first album was sold? Because I'd like to hear at the end of this what album sold the most till now in that catalog.
Let's see here. Give me a couple. Oh, hold on there. The internet went out on the computer here. A second there. Black Sabbath.
And I want to give a shout out to Zach Wild. While you look at that, I posted a short of when Zach was doing his Sabbath tribute band a couple years ago. Zach Sabbath.
I can't look up anything right now. There's no internet at our place. Just throw them outside. Fuck that.
Can you go on phone? Can we watch the language on the show? And can we go on your phone and look?
Well, to do that, I could check for you, but
Oh God! Well, let me look real quick. You talk and I'll look. You'll just leave everything. You talk. Go on to the second album, but I'm gonna look for the how much sold on the first album, Dr. Brother.
Okay, the album. Well, I'm not too sure how long. Go ahead.
Bender String says almost 5 million sold. Let me go confirm that.
Mm.
And can you bring up the list for the second album, Brown? You probably already know it by heart, but you can start
Oh,
with
yes,
that.
I had that as well. Yes. All right, I guess our internet is back on. Yay, sweet. That's good to hear. All right, there. All right. All right, now Lyar's doing that. I'm going to stick right here. Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. We're having internet issues at our place. There's a storm outside, and lo and behold, it's fucking with our internet. Okay, units Black Sabbath has sold. It's going to possibly take me to how many units
All right,
each album that
so
they
it's
did.
for me through AI and Grok, it's 7.5 million since 2023 is what it's saying.
Okay.
So it's probably way more now, obviously after this big concert and the day, because the Spotify numbers went up for Ozzy songs and everything, of course, within the past month.
Oh,
so
obviously.
let alone, but okay, so like I would say like I'll throw like a solid 7 million. It says 7.5. Bender Strings in the chat said 5 million. Let's go with let's go with the conservative 7, and that's since 2023. The number I found.
All right.
So it's not going to lose numbers.
Well,
it's only going to gain since then.
Well, right now I'm looking at the equivalent album sales of all the albums Sabbath has done all together. Now, it says here the highest, according to this report, which is chartmasters.org, Paranoid, the second record, reached over between 30,000 million
30
and
million.
35,000 millions. Yes.
30,000
and
million.
the lowest. That's what it says here on the chart.
It's probably 30 million. It's probably 30 million. So, what is the second album's name?
This Paranoid. That's the one with the man jumping out from behind the scene. That's the one with the main songs that we know so well, like Paranoid, War Pigs, Planet Caravan, Fairies Wear Boots. All those songs. Electric Funeral. That's the one that really make them their. That's the one that really gave them their.
What year did that come out? 73?
1970.
70. So both albums
1970.
came out the same year?
Yes, exactly. Months apart.
What?
Bands,
really?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I'm gonna clip
a lot of
that.
bands did that a lot
because I didn't know that. That's wild.
Oh, definitely look it on Wikipedia for shizzle. A lot of bands have done that a few times in the past. They would release one album early in the year, and later on, towards the end of the year, they would put out another one. Remember, Ozzy did that here in the States with his two first solo records.
Well, Brown, quick sidebar. Did you ever see Ozzy or Sabbath live in concert, in person?
Well, I saw Black Sabbath once back in 1983 when they had Ian Gillan as their frontman. Quiet Riot was opening for them. And word had it that many people came to the show to see Quiet Riot, mostly. But the only time I saw Ozzy live was back in 2007. Me and a coworker at the restaurant that I was working at that time. It was when they had that free Ozfest going on.
What?
Yeah,
Dave,
it was.
what about you? Did you ever go to like Canadian Ozfest or nothing like that? Anything?
No, I wasn't able to actually. I did know a few people that did.
Yes.
But and I heard the shows. The shows were great. But yeah, unfortunately, I was never able to do so.
All right. So what's the? All right. So the second album, 30
Paranoid.
million.
Yep.
Let's do the track. Let's go through the songs on that. Did you have
easy
that?
one.
Did you have that on vinyl?
Yes, I did. Got it at a garage sale, and I was like, let's check this out. And boom. Yep, exactly. You never know what you can find at a garage sale, whether it's old Moody Blues records or the first Boston album in its original print.
All right,
Or
let's
you can
go.
find
What's
the book.
the or you can find the Boondock Saints on DVD as well.
Old maybe
PS2.
Who knows?
Now go ahead, Brown. What's the track listing, brother?
Well, the track listing on Paranoid, the second record, which by the way was almost called War Pigs, and I'll explain that a little bit later on. Seems that I'll explain that the first track on side one, War Pigs, Luke's Wall, which is what that da 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 da, which was how the record label put it. Then the song Paranoid, then Planet Caravan, and then of course Iron Man. Side two was Electric Funeral about the nuclear bomb. Hand of Doom,
that's the best
drug song.
That's the best song on that album is Electric Funeral. Definitely a deep track.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's a deep track for the general population, but if you're a metal fan, you definitely know that song.
You know? It's a deep track.
The metalheads, just like the metalheads and the real fans, they like the Volume 4 album, which we'll get into later. But Brown, go ahead, my brother.
But then again, the Electric Funeral kind of like foretold the plights of nuclear warfare way before all these movies in the 80s did.
Brown, was Iommi using a wah pedal on that riff?
Yes, he did. Yes, a crybaby wah pedal. Yep.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you listed the whole tracks on the album?
Yes, we all everyone knows the tracks on that album like the backs of their hands.
Okay, look, so the song Iron Man, which perhaps maybe inspired the comic book character Dave. Is that true? Do you know about that?
No. Iron Man was started in the 60s. It was a totally different idea. Iron Man, the song, was apparently about a man who gets somewhat turned to steel doing some experiment. And instead of getting gratitude for the ones who put him up to that experiment, gets dissed, shunned away, and as a form of payback, he vows to go after them all.
Very overplayed song, probably their next to, I don't know, like what would you say, Paranoid or Iron Man? What's their most general, overplayed song? Is it Iron Man or Paranoid, in your opinion?
Probably those. Maybe so, yeah. But I was going to say equally too, because those are ones that are played on the radio almost relentlessly.
Extremely, really, like. They'll throw in a War Pigs, obviously, that you'll hear NIB. I've heard NIB on the radio for sure, 15, 20 years ago when the radio was a thing, but not much. I mean, you don't really get too deep.
Fairies Wear Boots is a great track for that album.
Yeah, it's true. And for the US version, what they did.
That would be a deeper track too, right? Fairies Wear Boots. Would you consider that a deep cut, Brown?
Pretty much, yes, exactly.
Really?
In fact,
to me, that's yes. That's the thing, though. Like the whole album is fucking superb. So, like to me, that would be mainstream. But maybe you're right, Wire. Maybe that's something.
Canada's kind of like the UK. Like I feel like heavy metal and rock and roll is still very popular and everything compared to North America, where it's like pop and rap. Would you agree with that? A lot of metalheads in Canada and UK, like South America, tons of metalheads,
Oh, absolutely.
The only reason I can't even speak to that is because I don't listen to American radio, but I can tell you that I've heard of bands that you wouldn't normally hear on Canadian radio from around the world.
What about the band X Japan?
X Japan. I heard from a guy at school, basically.
We got to do a show just on them one day too. That's one of Dave's favorite bands, guys. Indeed. On record.
Listen to them yourself, and you tell me if they're not good.
So the second album clearly had 3 of Sabbath's probably top 3 most played popular songs. That's why that's 39.
Yes, exactly. Let's
So
not
what's
forget
the
on side two. Go ahead.
yeah? Go close out your comment, your
Well,
reflections on the second album.
side. Well, the second album, and of course, as I mentioned, starts off with Electric Funeral, then kicks into Hand of Doom, which I once again will say, if
Good
you think
song.
about getting into drugs, think twice after listening to that song because of the description that the lyrics are telling you.
It's a good
Rat
song.
Salad, which is yeah,
Rat Salad? No, Dr. Brown froze. He's going through the eye of the hurricane.
That storm in Texas.
You know, that
Florida.
Zach Sabbath show, they played a lot of that. Rat Salad, they played Players Wear Boots.
Oh,
Oh, Brown, continue. We lost you. You froze there for a minute.
I'm back. I know, like I said, it's a fucking freaking storm that's doing this to me on my end there. Of course, Rat Salad. Of course, the album closer, Fairies Wear Boots, which was how it was in the UK. But here in the States, it was Jack the Stripper slash Fairies Wear Boots. That that was Jack the Stripper. That's how they did it a couple of times here in the States. A lot of bands around that time were mixing two songs into one, King Crimson being one of them.
Okay, and so far between the first and the second album, if you had to pick one, Brown, you still going to go with the first album?
I would
Like,
have
what
to
game?
so because of the power,
Right.
because of the
I agree
power
with
of
that
that
too.
album. And
I agree
plus,
with
let's
that
not
too.
forget, there were a couple times at a place called the Cathedral in Detroit. I would bring the song Black Sabbath over to play and to have everybody dance to a couple of times. I did that a couple of times at the shelter as well underneath St. Andrew's Hall. In fact, I'm also trying to get one of the DJs at the castle to play the Dance or Die industrial version of the song.
Oh, wait, did you request Ozzy like a week ago or something? A few weeks ago? Did you request Ozzy on the DJ and they played it? I think I saw that.
No, I don't think no, I don't think I
I
requested the
swear I
Ozzy.
saw, or maybe you just put a video of you like shouting out the DJ Ford playing some Ozzy. I think it was like something like that.
But
Well, you need to if you haven't, or unless I dreamed it. But I swear it would make sense for you to request. Hey, man, play
actually,
some.
actually, what they did is I requested "Shot in the Dark" by Ozzy
Well,
last
there you go.
Saturday
Why are
at
you
a place
trying to?
called
Why are
the
you?
Castle.
Why are you
Because
acting
you
like
mentioned the Castle. This is it's a different venue. It's
All right. Regardless, thank you.
No, he should have played this.
And the cool thing about that DJ is if you request Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood, he'll definitely play that to fit it with the tone of the song.
But they did play "Shot in the Dark," correct?
Correct. Yes.
Thank you. Thank God. All right. So
yes.
the third album, can we get what year that came out? The name and everything on the third
I believe that it was 1971, Master of Reality. And I mentioned this before. This is the one that was a big influence of the alternative grunge rock scene in the early 90s. It had effect on Soundgarden, especially Alice in Chains, and all these other grunge rock groups around the Seattle area because A, the different tempos of almost each song, 2, the tuning of the instruments, and 3, the lyrical content of the songs of that album. It starts off
but
with
I would also argue that bands that came after that album were certainly influenced by them. It's just that the grunge scene apparently gravitated to that. I've read a lot about that. I'm not a fan of the grunge scene. We won't get political here, but yeah, I'm just saying that there's other bands that have been influenced by that particular album well prior to the grunge scene establishing itself.
Let's not forget Soundgarden did their version of one of the closing tracks of the album, Into the Void, but they mixed in lyrics from the speech, words from an individual named Chief Stealth. It's talk about how the white man came over to our land to take our land for themselves, kind of like the same vein as Run to the Hills, but in a much more darker turn.
There's definitely, as we go along with the albums, and we're kind of starting to the first album. I mean, essentially, it's generally it's the same, but like it gets a little bit more of a crunchy That metal sound really comes in like when we start getting into like these albums coming up. That first album, recording wise, you can hear the hisses. You can hear it's not really like the best audio ever recorded because it was so long ago. It was very good audio, but it's
Great
definitely
audio.
different. It's different from what you hear sonically, if that makes sense, in other Sabbath albums. But
Don't you think that
essentially, it's like the same sound,
Don't you think it enhances it though?
It's better because obviously, like, time is moving and what technology is growing. However, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's clearly like, because if you think like the late, 68, 69, 70 is way different from 79, 80, 81. Like, in a way, like, yeah, there's records there, but this when we start to get into like digitalized CDs, these discs, you know what I'm saying? So it's like the sound gets better. Definitely. I think like I could tell when stuff is like from the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. I can just tell it like it was recorded back then compared to like the 80s, early 80s, full 80s. It's like way, electronics and everything just is way different from that 10-year span. But like Brown, continue with the third album because this is when it really gets. This is on my top 3, Brown, by the way.
Yes, exactly. And here's something else that I was not aware of until I looked it up under Wikipedia, which I'm going to read for you right now. On the first editions of the album, several songs had subtitles given to segments, making it appear that there were more songs than there actually were. For example, the intro to the second track, After Forever, which was a pro-Christian song, was given the title The Elegy. The coda to Children of the Grave was called The Haunting. The intro to Lord of This World was titled Step Up. And the intro to Into the Void was called Death Mask. This treatment also had been used on the North American version of the
as some type of like censorship, because back then it was like the demonic narratives. Is that why they had backup names for the song?
No, they were basically that was a couple of bands were doing that kind of stuff around that time. Like I mentioned, King Crimson being one of them, making a period instead of just one full song, have a couple other songs included into it. Like, for example, King Crimson has Circus, including Entry of the Chameleons for the third record. Now, this treatment, as I mentioned, that was used on Master Reality, as I mentioned previously, was also done on both the first album and the second album. More tracks instead of just a basic 4 on side 1 and 2.
Brown, the song Lord of This World, that would be the number 1 off that album. Would you agree with that?
Oh, my personal favorite would have to, yeah, absolutely.
Dave, because it's a
badass song.
No, listen, I'm gonna tell you why. We've talked about Sabbath a million times, obviously, the past whatever years, but when the Zach Sabbath thing, right? When I went to it, that he covered that, and I kind of shouted Brown out because I was like, "Oh my God, we're getting into the Dr. Brown territory now of Sabbath."
Yeah, exactly.
We're getting.
I remember you was. I remember you was sending me videos.
Yes, I mean I'm talking. Listen, Dave, do you know that song personally, Dave? You know what I'm talking? Lord of This World. Down, 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 down.
Not off the top of my head.
Oh, check it out, man.
Down, down. And listen, the riff lord, the riff master. I don't know if you call him the creator of the riff. I don't know if that is a thing, but Tony Iommi.
He is fucking great, though.
Listen, very simplistic. I mean, it sounds simple, like very, you know what I'm saying? But when you get to the, this dude has like fake fingers, metal, because of like a metal, like a metal, literal metal smelting, or whatever the right word is. Dave, would you agree with like a metal
chopped off?
with metal and a metal factory, you know, and
Yeah, he was working. He was.
This
Well,
is
let me
real.
explain the detail. What happened was that he was doing some. He was told to do some. It was his last day on this job, and then he was told by the
Well, they were making
supervisor.
shillelaghs. They were making a bunch of shillelaghs. You know, these metal clubs or whatever. Go ahead.
I'm not too sure what they were making, but he was told instead of doing his usual job, they need him to work this machine, sheet cutting, and apparently his wasn't paying attention to where his fingers were on his right hand. And I guess someone with the switch, and next cut off basically the tips of those two middle fingers on his right hand. And as a result, he thought about quitting guitar altogether until somebody gave him an album by one Djano Reinhardt, who's only able to use the two fingers on his left hand because of some accident he had as a kid, which he made damn good use of. And this gave the inspiration. What again?
He gave them to him, or he made his own custom ones from that idea?
I guess he made his own custom fingertips, if that's what you're asking. Out of leather and everything else.
Is there like metal? Is there like metal or steel on the fixture?
On the tips?
Yes.
The fake tips? I'm not too sure, but I understand.
I think it's part of that sound, though. You know, it's all about the sound, the tone.
But
you know what I'm saying?
Either way, Iommi would later detune his guitar down, and so that way it make bending the strings a lot more easier. And he would also go on to use the lightest of guitar strings in terms of gauges. And that basically was basically the key elements on how heavy metal started, being bam boom.
All right. Is that all the songs on the third album?
No, I was going to go to the other ones as well. The first song was Sweet Leaf, about, of course, the herb that everybody loves to smoke. The second album was Cannabis. Yep. Mm-hmm. The second track for that album, you could be confused. The second track for that album was a pro-Christian song called After Forever, which they defend God. Then Embryo, the small instrumental. Then they kick it to Children of the Grave.
Now, I would say that, I mean, this is more of a question towards Dave and his alley, but the cannabis use, you know, the Tide Sticks, the, you know, Afghans, those older strains back in those days, is it safe to say that, like, there's a big difference from the 60s, late 60s, to the 70s when it comes to cannabis, or it was all the same back then? Those are like now where it's improving, like there's liquid fucking THC now you could take, for Christ's sakes, but like was it all pretty much all like was it all like the Tide Sticks and everything back then? It was all pretty much the same. Or were like the stars doing the drows and everything, Dave? Was that a thing?
Can't hear Dave.
Oh, I think he was taking a dump.
There he is. He's back, I believe.
Yeah, I'm back.
All right. Did you hear the question?
I did not.
Okay, so it was a question directed towards you. Would you agree that from like the 60s to the 70s, was the cannabis just in general, was it all the same? Or like when you get into the 70s, when you get into these rock stars, were they smoking on like the droves and like, or was it all like Tide Sticks and all that back then?
In the early 60s and stuff, it was basically just outdoor grown, a lot of seeds. Certainly not anywhere close as potent as it is today. In the 70s, they started to get wise to how you could weaponize this, and they started to again use hydroponic labs to grow this stuff. You did see an increase in potency at that point, but obviously there was other drugs that were going around. I mean, in the 80s, Coke was the thing. So weed, even if it was strengthened from compared to the 60s, didn't even come close to the usage that Coke, for example, had.
When and Ozzy and Sabbath were, did that, the weed thing though. When it comes to the song "Sweet Leaf," I mean, they really.
Well, at that point again, it was something that. Okay, so the whole cannabis history is quite deep, and it was criminalized primarily because it was taking out profits from the paper milling companies. Hemp is essentially capable of doing anything you want. There was a car, its body was made entirely out of hemp in the 30s. So basically, no, it's for real.
I called it Tide Stick. It's Tie Stick.
But
look, so like,
what I'm trying to make is that basically that despite the fact that it was criminalized and it was looked down upon, it was obviously counterculture that brought it up. Ozzy singing about it, and really just sort of connecting with people, saying like, yeah, it's a sweet leaf. There's nothing wrong with it. Sort of connected people to it and made it somewhat more socially acceptable, even if it was on the counterculture level.
Well, Brown, was that the first weed song? Like,
no, I don't think.
No. There were songs in the 30s that
weed goes back to the 1930s and 1920s. Hell,
even earlier.
By the way, why ours
criminalized? Well, actually earlier, but it was criminalized.
And there were songs about it.
I believe so. You just had to listen closely.
Well, no, I'm not saying. Well,
they weren't overt about it. YR. They were actually, again, because it was illegal for so long. They weren't trying to advertise. Hey, cops, I like to smoke reefer. They weren't doing that, but they were dropping hints.
Well, and in America, or just like, when entertainment really became a thing and TV and everything, like Sweet Leaf.
Mm-hmm.
Like what other songs were about weed though? Let's generalize.
Well, look up.
Hold on. Let's go to something even more extreme and talk about Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and the fact that that was still not called out because it wasn't recognized by the mainstream that was about LSD. So
the hippie, the 60s. I mean, yes, we'll get into some drugs.
What about Puff the Magic Dragon.
Beautiful Mary.
What do you think
he's talking about that song?
What do you think he's fucking puffing?
Exactly.
Well, there you go.
And why do you think Shaggy and Scooby ate so much like they did?
That was a folk band, YR. Oh,
did people back in the day? Did y'all really know? Did y'all think that Scooby Doo was like, that Shaggy was a weed person?
That's a man. Look at all the times they would eat. I mean, come on, it's no secret, dude.
As a teenager, I did, but again, as a kid, you're not really looking at that.
Yeah.
And think about what the ingredients went into those Scooby snacks.
Yeah, you might smell a strange smell coming from your parents' party and stuff, because again, back in the 80s everyone smoked, so it's like you're not really hanging out at the party. Oh, you smell something weird, it's just cigarettes. But then you grow up and you're like, oh, I've smelled that before, and it's certainly not cigarettes.
And let's not forget the movie Reefer Madness from the 1930s.
But again, that was a propagandized intent to try to criminalize cannabis use,
marijuana,
make people that used it look like criminals and psychopaths.
Brown goes
same way the Christian fundamentalists went after all the kids who listened to heavy metal in the 80s, calling them Satanists, disruptors, rebels, and stuff. They did the exact same thing.
Brown, Dave goes. Dave says cannabis. Dave says cannabis, and then Brown, has marijuana.
Yeah. I caught that.
But in a way, when you think about it, it kind of makes sense in how some people like to use propaganda methods and try to teach kids not to smoke weed or not to listen to heavy metal. The same thing.
And now we've got the total opposite. Where you've got concerts where you've got what's her name, Katy Perry, or what's her name, the other one, the blonde. What's her name? Fuck.
Tony Storm.
No, the singer who doesn't have an
Taylor
ass.
Swift.
There we go. Thank you.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, doing all sorts of occult type things and indoctrinating people with their concerts. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
I heard through the grapevine, Dr. Brown is frosting at the mouth to get score some Taylor Swift tickets. So
please,
Tony
Khan can help you.
Hold on. You know what? Why are you saying that when it would be Keith who'd buy tickets to that show so he can get some underage pussy?
No, that is an expensive show though.
They get older. So, I stay the same age. Yeah.
All right. So Brown, did we finish the track listing on the third album?
Not yet. Second album, I mean, the second side from Master Reality, Lord of this World, which I sent out to Quabi Kilpatrick, the ex-mayor of Detroit. Listen to the lyrics of that song and read up on what he did, and you know what I'm talking about. Talk about someone who was put on this earth to love, but chose evil ways instead of love. You know, like you turn to me whenever you want something out of greed, out of pride. But when you turn to me when it's time for you to die. Send out to the executive, the political figure who uses everything to his advantage, the people who let those down, those who betray, deceive for their own personal gain. Send that song to that person. I send that song to Quabi Kilpatrick because he did indeed fucked Detroit dry with no Vaseline. He did. And of course, Solitude, which is about a guy, missing his love, his girlfriend. Very, very deep track, deep atmosphere, that one. And then, of course,
quick sidebar, because people are saying, was KK Downing an original guitar player for Priest? Is that a correct statement?
I believe so. Yes, I believe so.
Well, I posted a video and I'm getting comments. People are saying no, he wasn't. So I don't know what to believe. I mean, I always go for Brown Brown's the ultimate.
Or really you can go to Wikipedia.
All right. So
and of course, that's not. Hold on a second. Song? One more thing. One more. I forgot to mention this. The song "Orchid," which leads off side true, is what starts off that album side. Then it kicks into Lord of this World, then Solitude, and then Into the Void.
Honestly, out of all this, like the weakest album is going to end up being the second album, Watch, and that's probably the most. That's the highest grossing album. Is what you're seeing on your chart, right, Brown? Or no? 30 million is the highest.
No, 30 million high. That album was probably one of the high selling records according to chartbusters.org, which I don't have the tab up right now this moment. I was looking up Master Reality.
Well, yeah, what's Master Reality's grossing and sales till now?
Let's see. Let me look it up right now since I got the info right here for you.
And Brown or Dave, do you remember in the 80s or 90s if they did play any deeper Sabbath stuff on the radio, or was it always Paranoid, Iron Man, NIB, War Pigs?
Do you ever remember? Earlier is that no, there was radio stations that would give deep cuts, as you call them, here in Canada.
Mm-hmm. Well, it says here, U.S., UK, it went up to number 5. In U.S., it went up to number 8. Norwegia, number 12. Italy, it was at number 8. In Germany, it was number 5. No, but that's how far they reached in.
Like how much in dollars did the third album sell in total? Is there a total on that?
I'm looking at. Well, it doesn't really said how many albums it sold. It just only lists how high it went up on whichever charts in the country that it was released. I know here in the States, it went 2 times platinum with a certified units /
look for the number.
Sales.
Can we get? I'm gonna look for the number. Hold on.
2,000 and 2 million, I guess you could call it that. Mm-hmm.
All right, 7.1 million is what it's saying on as of 20. Just it is from Chartmaster.
Chartmasters.org.
From 30 million to 7.1 million. Dave, why do you think that is? Just being an overall genius in numbers and math and everything. What was that gap? That's a big gap. It's a big loss.
Between what? Sorry,
30 million and 7 million album.
But which are the two albums you're referring to?
Yeah, the second album was 30 million. That's the one with Iron Man and Paranoid and all that. And this third album was only 7 million.
Change of taste, maybe. I mean, again, what kind of music was going on when that third album came out? It could have been. There's been times where, although a great album was out, music was, or radio was sort of inundated with a certain song that was influenced to play there because of payment, and it overshadowed the other stuff. I can't say that's the case because I don't know the details of when it was released and what songs it was going up against, but there's a very good probability that is, again, a reason why it didn't do as well as it did with the previous album.
That's Brown. When did bootlegging come in? Was there bootlegging going on back then?
I do not know, but you know what? Since you brought up that word, we got to get into that on a future episode sometime soon. But going back to what you mentioned, that the same thing happened with Boston. Their first album sold thousands and thousands of units. Unfortunately, the second record, Don't Look Back, which came out a couple of years later, that only sold half the amount that the first album did. So that whole thing has not. That actually has happened to a lot of other bands just as well.
And we're talking 1971. We're talking between 1969 and 71. What was Led Zeppelin doing around that time? Were they have an album out then? I feel like they were
I think Sabbath and Zeppelin were the two big things around that period.
Really? Back then, I feel like Sabbath was still a little bit too, like that was way.
Oh, Zeppelin and Sabbath, they were the big.
Really? Were they in separate? Was it really equal like that back then?
Oh yeah,
something like that. Yes, yeah. In fact, Zeppelin and Sabbath got along great. Apparently, there was a secret jam that the two groups did together that unfortunately never got recorded.
I feel like Zeppelin had more fans back then than Sabbath back then.
Well, maybe so.
Their legacy is huge and popular and everything, but I'm saying, like, I don't know, like, and we'll probably get more like that with Sabbath, but like, okay, so the fourth album, Brown. What's the fourth album's name?
Volume 4.
And that's the number one album from like all the the Pantera guys, like a lot of the real metal people now, obviously, 80s, blah blah blah. That Metallica is everything. You see that shirt a lot, the Volume 4 shirt being worn on stage by a lot of these people. That's their favorite. I personally don't really see why. I did, it's not on my list for sure. I know I can kind of see maybe like when we get into the songs, but like I don't know. I feel like that album is a step back from the third album in the sound sonically. I mean, we're getting to like, I don't know. I feel like overall Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, I feel like, that's the sound. That's the sound of metal. But like, let's get into this round 4. This
Volume 4.
What is your opinion on that? Do you see why all these people like this album?
I know one of the big. I know one good reason being the song "Snowblind," which, by the way, you all know what it's about: snorting cocaine, which Sabbath was doing a lot at times. According to, of course, Sabbath were getting into a lot of drugs. In fact, I remember Geezer telling one interviewer that they used to snort heroin instead of injecting it.
And yet they're still alive.
Yep,
crazy.
Exactly.
What do you guys think of the comments in the chat?
All right, so like, did you want to read them?
Yeah, it's the comments in the chat. Let me see what we got here.
Hey, there was a
I
good
know
one.
Bender.
There was a longer one up here. I wanted y'all to read that. This touchy subject one. Okay. Do you see the comment? The touchy Bender
Yes, I
strings.
see.
Go ahead and read that.
I see it. Okay, it said Bender Strings, and shout out to you for Brighton bringing this up because he makes a good point. I know it's. Do you guys prefer any of the Sabbath songs on Ozzy's "Speak of the Devil" live release over the originals? I have a couple. Well, my only response to that is that it was that the Sabbath covers on that record that led me into getting the other albums from Black Sabbath to see for myself. Because I know a lot of the songs on that live release was definitely powerful, especially Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, the Ozzy live version on that release. That's what got me into the other Sabbath albums.
But he goes on. There's some good points there.
There you go.
I never listened to that album.
I wouldn't look at Masters of Reality as a failure. Paranoid was just a phenomenon. Do you know just how few albums sell 30 million and how many bands would sell 7 million even at that time?
Oh, man.
Snowblind is better on Speak of the Devil, in quotations, ducks and covers.
Yeah.
Gentlemen?
I know. I would have to say, like, the way they arranged the songs on that live release was definitely top notch, especially with Sweet Leaf, as well as Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and of course, NIB, and especially with the song Black Sabbath as well.
Okay, so like Brown, do you know who is creating or drawing up the album covers? Were this all the same person each album? Was it different people?
I'm not too sure who.
I believe it was different people. To be quite honest,
I believe so as well. I know the last two records they did with Ozzy, Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die, the covers for those two albums were done by the group Hypnosis. Storm Thorgerson and Aubrey Powell, which did album covers for 10cc, Led Zeppelin. They did a few for Pink Floyd, mostly Pink Floyd when you think about it there. I mean, they did a couple albums.
Which I did put a short up today about asking the fans, rock fans, if Pink Floyd is overrated, and it's getting a little viral. It's getting kind of viral. A lot of people are saying that they're not. They're like, they're underrated. They're underrated. They're saying the opposite.
They are underrated.
I'm getting a lot of views on that. Not views. That's not the right word. Just a lot of commotion around that subject. It's random, but since you mentioned Pink Floyd, I'd like to take a look at. I mean, so far, Dr. Brown from. Did you finish the track listing on Volume 4?
Not yet. I haven't even gotten into that yet.
Finish that, and then I want to ask you what album so far would you pick out of the 4 so far?
Well, I would say. Well, let me say this. Going to that question, I have to pick 2: the first album and the third album.
Nah, but it's like it's you have to pick one out of so far, and then when we get to the
last, too difficult for me. It's too difficult for me, unfortunately.
If we go, well, no, we can't. No. It makes no fun. The part of the fun is it being difficult and trying to think. But like ultimately, it's probably going to be your favorite album. Is probably going to be the first album. So you're going to go back to that. So you can't really feel bad at replacing that. You get what I'm saying? It's part of the game. Like, I know you feel bad and it's emotional for you to like not crap on the album essentially, but like try to replace it. You're choosing all of them. I get it. But as we go, some might get better than the others, in your opinion. So like the Volume 4, would you agree that album is better than the third album?
Not really, because when I picked it up for the Harmony House.
See, I feel you on that. I understand that. It's a lot of, like Dave, all the metal, your Anthrax, your people, Scotty and people in Anthrax, you Pantera members. I mean, I see Phil Insomnia wear the Volume 4 shirt all the time on stage. I see who's the bass player for Metallica right now. What's his name?
Robert Trujillo.
Robert Trujillo, Dave, he wears that Volume 4. It's yellow. It's yellow, like a mustardy yellow shirt all times. Like the actual players of metal, this is their favorite album from Sabbath, Volume 4. But I listened to it, and it's not really that, like, they're not really moving. They're not like when we get to Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, that's the metal sound to me. That's Satan. That's 666, and the album cover, to boot on that.
Yeah,
But
we gotta talk about that album cover.
but like
That's for sure.
the Volume 4, like you said, is this when they're really on the high point of drugs? Maybe, obviously it's liked and loved, but like to us, it's like it might be a little bit overrated, perhaps. It's kind of deep, not like your general public doesn't know Volume 4, but the metal fans, that's their number one pick. That's the T-shirt you see all the time. When I go to these shows, I see the Volume 4 shirt all the fucking time.
I know, it's the thing there.
Obviously you're going to see the Black Sabbath purple logo shirt or whatever, but like I see that shirt all the Volume 4 all the time. Okay, so Brown, did you finish the track listing? And can you give me a favorite song off the Volume 4?
Well, let
album?
me, because I never got to do the whole track listing. Side 1 starts with Wheels of Confusion, and that was for the UK version. Whereas here in the States, it was Wheels of Confusion / The Straightener. Then it kicks into Tomorrow's Dream. Then the song changes, which has Iommi on piano and somebody doing a mellotron. That's one that Ozzy and Kelly would later redo, which I do not recommend.
So wait, the Volume 4 album, that's when Sabbath brings in the keyboards?
Well, the keyboards would later appear on a couple other albums later on.
Okay.
But they were not done by the members of Sabbath themselves, and I'll get into that later on. But then again, FX, which is a little Iommi, messes around with some echo effect there. Then they kick into Supernaut, which closes out side 1. Then side 2 kicks in with their cocaine anthem, Snowblind. Then it kicks into Cornucopia. Then this Laguna Sunrise, which is a beautiful instrumental by Iommi with an orchestra to back him up. I played that for my mom at one point, and she's like, "Why, that's beautiful. Who does that?" Black Sabbath. Really? Then it kicks into St. Vincent's Dance, which actually is about a guy talking to a friend of his about, rekindling a romance that was on the brink. Apparently, the guy feels that his girlfriend was deceiving him, and the friend Ozzy's telling his friend, "Hey, try to hear her out a couple things before you make that jump ship move." Then it closes out with "Under the Sun," which here in the States was called "Under the Sun / Every Day Comes and Goes."
I mean, these are Dave. We're getting deep. Volume 4 is probably, to the general public, it's deep. You know what I'm saying?
Dr. Earl certainly is quite versed in the music. That's why he is a doctor.
Absolutely, baby.
Dr. Music, what's your favorite song on Volume 4?
Oh, it have to be Wheels of Confusion, because the tone, the guitar, and everything else, and plus the straightener as well, being an interesting instrumental to close out that track, definitely.
And they had the Volume 4 merch. When I saw Zach Sabbath, it was obviously Sabbath renowned with the purple, but the Volume 4 has the yellow. So this is that same font of the Sabbath with the yellow. From Volume 4 from this album we're discussing. So congratulations on that to me. Run down the track listing on Volume 4 really quick again, because I want to give you my pick.
Okay. Side 1, Wheels of Confusion / The Straightener. Tomorrow's Dream, Changes, FX, Supernaut. Side 2 starts with Snowblind, then Cornucopia, Laguna Sunrise, St. Vincent's Dance, and then Under the Sun.
Oh, so Changes would probably be the biggest popular track off that album.
Nowadays, yes.
My favorite would be the first song, Wheels of Confusion. It is a really
Wheels
good
of
song.
Confusion. It is.
Okay, so what's the fifth album?
Bloody Sabbath, the one we got to get
Okay,
into
yeah,
the
this is when
cover
we go.
of.
This is when we just go straight to hell with Satan himself. I mean, this is when we really the imagery on the album cover. You know,
And on the back cover. Yeah, I'm looking up the artwork of that album right now.
And
It was illustrated by.
this is where Rhea Ripley kind of got the Rhea Bloody Ripley moniker as well.
No surprise. Says here, the illustrator created colored pencil drawings of both on the front and back album sleeves. The front shows a man in red tones, nude male, in elaborate California King satanic bed with a large 666 on the headboard, tormented by male and female demons in the buff, as well as rats. The back shows the same guy passed away peacefully, rendered as mostly blue, surrounded by grieving loved ones and sleeping lions. Basically, it shows a man, the same guy, died both a horrific death and later also a peaceful death. And the vertical version of that album, the overseas one from the UK, shows a gatefold with the members of the band translucent standing in the finished bedroom, almost kind of like ghost-like.
Like a transgender demon or something.
Transgender? No.
Transgender?
No, it's called translucent.
The hell, Dave? What is the translucent? I never heard of that word, Dave.
I've never heard of that either.
Really?
Let me.
We stumped to the Dave on a word.
Okay, let me look it up there because I believe it's a court imagery.
We know what transmission is. We know what transgender and transsexual is, of course. But what is trans?
It says here, permitting the passage of light, transmitting and diffusing light so objects cannot be seen clearly. Kind of like a ghostly figure, I guess you could say there.
All right, so I think this is my favorite album. I think if I had to tell someone what Sabbath album to listen to, if they never heard Sabbath, I think I would pick this one. And the reason why, we really get into some demonic, we really get into heavy metal straight up. It's heavier. Yeah. I think it's heavier, Brown. I think the songs are heavier sounding. What's the track listing on? Oh, what year did that come out?
They came out in November 1973. And going back to the cover, that's the one that really upsetted a lot of Christian groups, born agains, as well as parents, mostly parents, because of that front cover.
What's the can you find a number of how much money that album sold? How many albums sold money wise?
Well, let's see. It says here, goes here. I'm looking at the certified units sales of that album. In the States, sold more, 1,100, or I guess it's 1 million. I guess they call it platinum. In Canada, it was about 50,000. UK, it was 65,000. Actually, also the UK BPI in parentheses in the 2009 release, 1,000 sold gold. That is. And I guess in the States here, it was, let's see here, it reached number 11. Whereas back in the UK, it reached number 4.
All right, so it's saying between 4 to 5 million on that. Yes. So it's still not your 30 million. We're getting lower, for Christ's sakes. It was like 7 and 8 million on the previous albums. So, but I still think this is the best album. What's the track listing on this?
Oh, the side one starts up with the title track, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. The second track is A Natural Acrobat, which is one of my favorites from that release.
Yeah, listen, that song, Dave, to me, I mean, like The Wizard, Natural Acrobat,
Mm-hmm.
We're talking the deepest
Deep,
of the deep. We're talking deep,
baby.
but
Deep
not
cut.
just not deep and lame, but deep and good. Good. I mean,
Yep.
great. Like, oh my God. So
Deep
I mean,
and powerful.
right off the bat, National Acrobat is my favorite song off that album. But continue, please continue. As Dave
The
was
third track from that is an instrumental called "Fluff," which is I played for my mom just as well, and she's like, "Wow, this is beautiful." I played for this. Like this.
I went to the bar last week and met a couple of honeys, and they said, "Why don't you take a look at my fluff?" Is that what that means?
No,
Pubic
it's an
hair?
instrumental. No,
Oh.
no. That the pubic hair would have to be for a woman had to be considered muff.
Well, back then they had the muff and the fluff in 1973. So
They had both. Men and women had the muff and fluff in their genitals back around the whole 1970s.
Fluff on the muff.
thank you. All right, so continue.
But
Continue on.
fluff,
This album is so. Oh my God! Continue on
actually,
with the.
okay.
It was
Fluff, by the way, is an instrumental on the guitar as well. And the album ends with Sabra Cadabra, which Metallica would later cover on their covers album. Side 2 starts with Killing Yourself to Live, then kicks into Who Are You, which basically is a keyboard mostly song on the synthesizer. Then it kicks into Looking for Today, and then Spiral Architect, which is the album closer. And by the way, Rick Wakeman from Yes guest appears on the Sabbath Bloody Sabbath album, playing on Sabra Cadabra. He plays piano and mini moog on the fourth track, and the eighth track, the closing track of the album, Spiral Architect, was also featured the Phantom Fiddlers, which is a string orchestra, and conducted by one Will Malone.
Was this album the first to feature songs using the synthesizer keyboard?
I believe so. Yes.
So here we go. This is when the sound starts changing, and there's more albums with more synthesizer. Correct, Brown?
Yes. Yeah. There's a few on the later albums coming up as well. There.
You even actually hear that with Ozzy when he goes and takes off on his own. That you start to hear a lot more synthesizing.
Was that a Sharon thing? Did Sharon have any voice in Sabbath, or?
No, she was still a young girl at this point. She was still Don Arden's daughter.
All right, Brian, what's your favorite? Well, what do you remember of this album when it got released back in the day? Did you own it? And
yes, I did.
What is your favorite song off the album?
My two favorites have to be "Who Are You" and mostly "A Natural Acrobat."
Yeah, that's the song. That is Sabbath Bloody Sabbath title track.
Yeah, that was what I got into. I got into that song thanks to the "Speak of the Devil" version, by the way, Bender of Strings.
And Axl Rose covered that song on the Back to the Beginning. And
yes, exactly. Yes, as well as "Never Say Die" and I guess Junior's Eyes as well.
And they made it a part of their set for the GNR set with their concerts as well.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Yes. Yep. Actually, the one I remember was "It's All Right," which is a Bill Ward song.
Well, what's the fifth album? And Brown,
the fifth album?
What's
the sixth album?
What's the sixth album? Would you agree?
Oh, Sabotage.
Would you take Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, over all the rest of the albums, or are you still going with the first album out of the first 5 so far?
Oh, let me get this here.
You get what I'm saying?
Hold on a second. I'm getting distracted here. I'm trying to look up Sabotage here. What was the question again? My bad.
Okay, so out of the first 5 albums so far, would you still take the first album over a Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, or would you pick Sabbath Bloody Sabbath so far with the first 5 albums, or any other albums? Are you still sticking with the first album for your number 1 so far?
I would have to say, It's kind of a hard decision there, but hold on a second.
It's fun though. It's like you really gotta. I mean, like, I wouldn't hate you or I wouldn't disagree with you if you stick with the first album still.
Well,
But
Seb, what to me, go ahead.
it's real quick. It is. I feel like, in a way, I don't know what the right word is. It's not a different sound, but you can definitely tell that like the studio sound is better in these later albums compared to like the first album. Now the
Well,
first
that's
album definitely
because
sounds more raw and everything, right? But like,
well, Black Sabbath started producing their own albums later on. I shall return. It could be a couple minutes, guys.
yeah, we're talking about they're bringing in synthesizers and you know, which I'm not saying it makes the songs bad or worse because it is. I am a fan of the synthesizer in songs. I am a fan of Van Halen songs with the synthesizer, you know, the Sammy Hagar era.
Look at
You know what I'm
Perry
saying?
Mason, for example. That's an amazing song. Like, obviously, it's not Black Sabbath, but Ozzy, like I said, Ozzy continues to use that, and that's an amazing song.
What song?
Perry Mason.
Oh yeah,
Do,
that's like the new. Yeah,
do, do. Oh. Do, 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 do. Oh, come on, man. And that's why I wanted to mention is the fact that we saw that sort of start with Black Sabbath, but Ozzy sort of ran with it and continued to use it. And you obviously saw a lot of that during the 80s, but it was somehow Ozzy made it work so well. And also, Bender of Strings has some good comments to say, so I think you should be the one to say them.
and that is true. Once we start getting into Bloody Sabbath, there's, you know, the vocal peak of Ozzy is what we're getting into. I mean, the Sabotage album is also a vocal peak, and we're getting. I mean, that's a lot of songs on that probably no one's ever heard of and haven't been played on the radio. This album we're getting into next, Sabotage, is it's pretty deep, but there's I mean, that's a lot of people's favorites. Like, there's people. I mean, that might be a number 2 for me, actually. Honestly, Sabotage, Dr. Brown, coming up with the track list. We do want to shout out to the listeners right now. We do go live every week on Thursday, discussing rock topics and everything. We are riding the wave of Ozzy Osbourne. He did birth this channel with the subscribers. But we also, you know, rock news, the Motley Crue stuff, everything we'll talk about. It's not just based around Ozzy, this channel. But I am a capitalist. Not that I'm making money off nothing like this, but you got to capitalize. You have to put out content. You have to, in all different ways, songs, breaking down stuff. You know, that's how I look at it. Obviously, the concert clips I put up and everything, which really that was just like the basis of it. You know what I'm saying? But once people tune in and everything, and I mean, the comments, people really love rock music still. People love the 90s
I'm glad
stuff.
you bring that up, actually. I just got to interject is that apparently this last year, there's been a noticeable increase in consumption and preference for rock music. I saw that article the other day.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, it's coming back. I mean, it's always here and it's always going to be here and always was there. But like rock music, metal, some could say that metal is more bigger now than, or more mainstream now. I mean, there's a lot of metal, harder stuff. And I consider Linkin Park like a rap metal, more so than a rap rock. You know?
Online, if you just type in music, rock music comeback, you're going to see a lot of entries that indicate, even Google's AI is even saying that rock has seen a notable resurgence regaining popularity after a period where it was perceived as less dominant in the mainstream. So if you just look that up on Google, you'll see a lot of articles that sort of straight out say this, but I can't remember which particular article it was that I read this. But again, when I noticed that, I was like, oh, that's quite intriguing, because we sort of see that if you pay attention to what's being played on the radio and what bands seem to be popular, but there's also fatigue for other type of music. So it all seems to add up to the fact that rock is making sort of a resurgence. And AC/DC even said rock and roll will never die. So yeah, there might be times where it might not be as popular.
Double agree.
It's just like classical music. It'll always be around. In 50 years, do you think people know who MC Hammer was? Of course not. Even today, do people know who fucking MC Hammer is? So the point is that, there are certain genres and certain music that won't ever die.
And rock and part metal is more appropriate, family friendly than rap hip hop. Do we all agree with that?
I would
as a
have to
whole.
agree, yes.
Absolutely, because a lot of kids out there are now discovering what their parents were listening to back in days, and they took it upon themselves to learn those songs and start bands of their own.
Even though, if you think about it, like a lot of songs in rock is about love, some of it's about sex, like Kiss.
Some of it's just straight up rocking out and just enjoying life. It's not about, shooting people up or
that's really what like Sabbath really was. Like Brown, would you agree? Like Sabbath, a lot of the songs, lyrics, like just about like just the human life, just the human
experience,
Homo sapien sapien. Yeah, the Homo sapien sapien like experience.
A lot of the song. Well, let me say this: a lot of the songs
about not every song's about Satan and devil. And
no,
what I'm saying? It's
only. Let me say this, and I said this before. Many of the songs that Black Sabbath sang about were against evil, not for it. None of the members of Black Sabbath were Satanists. That was done by the record company and some of the handlers at that time. They gained controversy, to go along with the image that they first presented. And the 3 C's of the entertainment industry, we all know by heart. Controversy creates cash. It worked for Ozzy. That's your triple C's in the entertainment world. That's a better way to put it.
Rock and roll ain't noise pollution. Rock and roll will never die. That's for
example.
Quick sidebar to Dave. Did you see the Ozzy tribute I saw? And you think that's a little bit too soon, inappropriate? Or there was like a couple hundred people there.
No, it was packed. The thing is, though, there's been bands giving tribute to Ozzy for a long time, even before he died. So you can't really say, oh, you got to shut down your tour because he died. No, it's even more important.
There were a couple I saw. There was a couple of tribute bands I saw. One played called Crazy Train at Heart Bowls in Detroit. Another group called Crazy Babies that played Rum Runners in Windsor, Canada.
That's one of the best tribute bands experiences is an Ozzy Sabbath bass.
I didn't watch that video. I did see that you posted it, but you did say that there was a solo, and I would have loved to check that out because it looks like that particular band is geared towards that type of music.
Yeah, Brown, did you let's get into Sabotage.
Before I do so, let me recommend this. There is an all-female Black Sabbath tribute group out there called Black Sabbath that I've seen a couple of times on the internet. And they do Sabbath pretty good, like their version of Into the Void or Children of the Grave or a couple others. I've seen a couple of their videos doing Sabbath covers. It'll be interesting to check them out. That's for sure.
I just pulled them up. I'm going to check them out.
All right. Black Sabbath. Also, female Black Sabbath tribute bands. Because I know there's another one called Evil Woman. All right, there. YR Sabotage, the album.
we're starting to get into Ozzy's vocal peak. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, especially on some of the tracks like
A lot of melodies, a lot of melodic
Megalomania,
high notes. I mean, we're starting
Symptom of
hard
the
stuff.
Universe. And you know what? Interesting that this album was recorded probably would have to be one of the most angriest of their albums because at the time they were in the midst of a legal battle with their manager, who they found out was ripping them off left and right and left. So there was a lot of legal issues going on during that time. And it was they started working this album in 1975, and the title was chosen because the band at the time was being sued by their former management and felt they were being sabotaged all the way along the line. They're getting punched from all sides. In fact,
it's like Ozzy's vocal peak day, but it's like we're getting towards the end of Sabbath. Like they're starting to break down. They're starting. I mean, very high on drugs, everything now. What year is
not
this?
Not just
Brown?
that. 1975.
Yeah, it's like the later.
Tell that. With some bands, you can actually tell not only are they getting to their peak, but you can also tell that there's a lot of issues, going on. I've particularly been able to notice that with music, and that we have examples of where they can't be in the same room with each other, so they'll record the tracks separately and then they mix it, and you can hear, okay, well, that's not in the same room. They're not really, grooving there. So there's clearly something going on.
One of the perfect examples of that is Rumors by Fleetwood Mac.
Oh yeah.
Dave, Brown, did they were with Black Sabbath, the members, all four members, were they millionaires in the 70s at this time, would you say?
Not really, because like I mentioned, the band was getting ripped off by their manager at the time. The managers
where did they get all these drugs from? I mean, Ozzy says they were doing massive amounts of cocaine. Mounds of cocaine at this time.
I guess from their own, whatever money they had, I guess they were earning from all the touring and album sales and such. That was
that's a big difference,
Dave,
right? Like at first few albums, they're in their LSD days and their weed days. Now they're getting cocaine. Now it's fucking different.
And you hear the music, You hear the music.
Mm-hmm. In fact, here's something else. Sabbath were not the only ones getting ripped off. Springsteen got ripped off. Ted Nugent got ripped off by his manager. Aerosmith were getting deceived. Even Peter Frampton was getting hightailed by his management. Everybody was getting ripped off because managers at that time, they had access to everything, your life, your music, and everything else. They owned everything, including the houses you lived in. That went on a lot of times throughout the 1970s. The only band, I guess, that never got ripped off was Led Zeppelin. That's because Peter Grant, their manager, he was a former pro wrestler. And indeed, nobody crossed his path twice, let alone the third time. And he had seen the ways managers, agents ripped off bands all the time. And he vowed not to let that happen to his boys. All right,
Dr. Poppy. What's the song listing on? And this is
Sabotage.
The 1975 Sabotage.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, probably one of the most angriest albums. The side one kicked in with Hole in the Sky. Then it kicks into an instrumental called Don't Start Too Late. Then goes into Symptom of the Universe. Then ends with Megalomania, which is a pretty epic song that they did. Side 2 kicks in with The Thrill of It All. This one that leads after that was Superstar, which features a choir and Iommi's guitar.
These songs are way faster. Right. It's more faster paced.
Pretty
songs.
much. Yeah, very, very
not
fast.
This doomy, slow, like you got off the first album. Like it was really doomy.
Exactly. Symptom of the Universe. Yep. Megalomania, some sections of that one, as well as Symptom of the Universe, prove that as well. Then Psych 2 goes into Am I Going Insane? And ends with the Rit, the one you mentioned a few times on our old show, Metal Maniacs. Because I remember you were talking about that song a couple times there. And in fact, the Rit, according to the Wikipedia,
yeah, that's like the highest vocal Ozzy ever had as the Rit. Would you agree with that? I mean, there's some parts.
Yeah, exactly. The Rit is one of the handful of songs that feature Ozzy composing the lyrics. Ozzy typically relied on bassist Geezer Butler for the lyrics, but the song was about the frustration Osbourne felt at the time as Sabbath's former manager, Patrick Meehan, was suing the group after being fired. The song viciously attacks the music business in general and is a savage diatribe directed towards Meehan and specifically the line, "Are you Satan? Are you man?" With Ozzy revealing in his memoir, "I wrote most of the lyrics myself, which felt like seeing a shrink. All the anger I felt towards Patrick came pouring out. During that period, the band began to question if there was any point of recording albums that toured endlessly just to pay the lawyers." Thirdly, the Rit and megalomania were intertwined, according to drummer Bill Ward, as they both deal with the same tensions arising from those legal issues. All right.
Well, what's your favorite song off that of Sabotage?
I have to be my two favorites have to be Megalomania because of the dark, epic overtones, and as well as the Rit because of the theme behind that song.
That's like in my top three. I think
Mm-hmm.
a Sabotage the album is in my top three, Dave.
Very powerful album.
Okay, let me see how much sold on that. Let me look that up. Brown, did you remember when that album came out? Were you excited? Any songs on that album was on the radio? Do you remember at the time?
I discovered. Well, not really. They weren't really played on the album. They were played on the radio. Remember, Rio at this point was still doing the basic three tracks that we know by heart. I discovered it by accidentally on a pre-recorded 8-track that somebody got for me from a garage sale. I listened to that. I was like, wow, this is deeply powerful, man. And it says here, the certified unit sales of that album was 500,000 here in the States and 60,000 in the UK.
All right. So the dollar amount is 1.8 to 2 million, Dave, on the numbers. So their sales are shrinking by the millions. I mean, we're talking 30 million, 7 million, 6 million. I mean, now to a few million. Now, around this time, we had Kiss, huge. We had, your AC/DCs. You had
Boston.
When did the disco music come out? Was that what year?
I'm not too sure, but I think it may have started in 1977 or 78. One of those.
So a little bit later on. So we're not there yet, but 75. If you look back, Dave, at the bands and the songs that were out, there's a lot. There's a lot. There's a lot of stuff that continues to be on radio, commercials. I mean, we're talking when did Leonard Skinner, when were they at their peak, Brown?
I think around the 1970s, most likely.
Like early, I mean, there's songs that are out by 1975 from various groups that are beyond epic. I mean, that's a good year of music. You know what I'm saying? Right before disco and everything, a few years before disco, still not to the 80s yet.
That was a great era.
Let's not forget Nazareth's Hair of the Dog. That was a superb album from 75 as well.
I believe AC/DC is either 73 or 75.
They got their 76 came. That's when their first record came out here in the States. Yep.
Might come out 75 and not in the States though.
I think so. Yeah. It's usually it takes a while for a band to get one album out in the States after selling how many units of this album, that album in their native country.
What about Aerosmith, Dr. Daddy? Was Aerosmith a thing in 1975?
Oh yeah, all of these bands were a thing. Frampton, Nugent, all these bands were the thing. Bad Company, Zeppelin, Sabbath, you name it. They were the bigwigs of the rock and roll scene at that time.
Were the Beatles? Were the Beatles still a thing, or?
No, they broke up in 1970. All four members would have solo careers. Paul McCartney had his post-Beatles group Wings functioning.
Wings. All right, so this next album, I think, is the most non-known album. What is the name of the album, Brown?
Technical Ecstasy. It came out a year afterwards.
Yeah, we're getting a little weird when you get into that album. Yeah, that's like the big drug. You know, the peak of the cocaine. I think we're getting into some synthesizer. Right? We're getting a lot.
Not just that, it was also the change in the tone there. Technical Ecstasy, which I also discovered on the 8-track, the same time I discovered Sabotage, it had a lot more lighter tone to it. I guess the idea of that record was to get away from the black magic stigma, get away from the satanic stuff, and I guess it towards more a hard rock direction, kind of like what Aerosmith and Ted Nugent were doing at that time.
Brian,
Brian, when you're recorded in Miami.
Brian, when you're in your young goth days back in the day, did you used to worship Satan? Like not knowing, being a younger person? You knew better? Right.
No, never would ever do that.
Yeah, some of this music inspires people to do things like rap music inspires, the YNs and the Edgars out there shooting kill.
No.
Rock music might inspire you to drive a car real fast, drink up, listen to a country song. I'm gonna drink a beer and does it inspire you?
The ones
worship Satan and get into some dark stuff, man.
No.
Right. Well, guys, everyone take off. Thanks for taking my call. You guys have a good night.
Thank you, brother.
All right, there. Good to have you on, Dave. But never have I ever worn. You never, and I said this many times. Never have I worn anything satanic, nor would I ever speak anything pro-satanic.
666.
Never. I will never do that, and avowed that.
Dr. Brown, the Doctor 666. You don't like that?
Never. In fact, there was this one idiot at the City Club in Detroit who was into that bullshit, and he tried to be friends with me a few times. I'm like, fuck you! I don't want nothing to do with you. Bye. See ya. Don't want to be.
But you like wearing skulls on shirts, right? Skull and bones. You never do that. You don't like that. Well, you like the Iron Maiden. You like Maiden, Eddie.
Yeah, but they don't have skull and bones on their shirts. Just have their mascot. That's about it.
Basically a skull. It's basically a cranium.
Not that I know of.
That was the thing. That was the thing. Like, there's nothing wrong with the skull shirt. You're saying it's you could represent the dark side with the skull shirt and not be a Satan worshiper. You know what I mean?
But they get people. Yeah, but you had to get people mistaken that for a pirate shirt.
You don't like? Do you accept pirate shirts?
They're pretty good. Yes, I accept pirate fashion. Yeah.
All right. So.
Okay.
Technical Ecstasy. I don't know if I know a song off this album, Brown. What year? What year?
Well, it came out in 1975. 1976, the first lead-off track was Backstreet Kids. Then it kicks into You Won't Change Me. Then it gets into It's All Right, which is a song sang by Bill Ward, their drummer, which Guns N' Roses did a couple of times live in the past. Then it ends with Gypsy. As when I mentioned about Sabbath singing about Against Evil, the lyrics of that song said it best. Gypsy woman, you're the devil in drag. You are the queen of all hell. You got me under your spell. Then side 2 kicks in with All Movie Parts Stand Still, which I've looked up. It was about what would happen if a transvestite becomes president of the United States of America. Yeah. Then Then he kicks into another favorite of mine, Rock and Roll Doctor. Then the ballad She's Gone about Ozzy missing his loved one who went away and never came back. Then it ends with Dirty Women, which is about hookers that you see on the streets, pimps included. I see a man, he's got takeaway women for sale. If that's the answer, then takeaway women does not fail. And like I mentioned, that album, along with the one that would come after this, was more lighter compared to the stuff they did in the past. In fact, another song for that album,
Brown,
Backstreet Kids.
Brown, did you like this album? Honestly,
I
it's probably
did,
the least
yes.
favorite. Is this your least favorite album?
No, this is what that really helped me get into Sabbath just as well, as long as the yeah, it did. Yeah, my sister and a couple of her friends went to a garage sale. She picked up these 8 tracks, Techno
But
Ecstasy,
why
one of
couldn't you
them.
get into
Yeah.
why couldn't you get into this music when it first came out though in the 70s?
Well, back then I was a young kid. I was a young boy. I did this. I did discover. I did not discover rock and roll until the Beatles TV series came on the TV. It was a cartoon series, and that was around 1977, 78. I was a wee kid back then. I didn't really know much about music, but I remember all the songs that were popular all over the place, whether it's a hustle. In fact, I remember my sister would play the 45 Dreams by Fleetwood Mac endlessly in her room growing up.
All right, so did we finish the track listing on this one?
Not yet. I was going to get into. I'm still doing that.
I would say this album. I feel like I've heard Eddie Trunk say it's like underrated. Would you agree with
Very
that?
underrated. Very, very underrated.
It's not bad. It's not a bad album. It's just not well known.
It was a commercial success. It peaked at number 13 on the UK albums charts, number 51 on US Billboard 200 album charts. It was later certified gold by the RIAA in 1977. It was to explore different musical territories. It varied. It had complex songs than earlier records with a lot of keyboards and effects in it as well. Don Airey, who's currently the keyboardist for Deep Purple, he would contribute keyboards on that album. In fact, when I mentioned It's Alright was sung by drummer Bill Ward, it became their first song not sung by Ozzy Osbourne, to be exact. All right, there. Let me go on to more. It says here.
What year are we in, Brown? For this album?
What year? This album came out 1976.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Still early.
Apparently, Tony Iommi was taking over the band's direction at this point. Everybody else was getting too lazy. It says here, the sessions proved to be extremely laxing for everyone except for Iommi, who was the only one left to oversee the production while everybody else sunned themselves on the beach. It was recorded in Miami. Iommi explained to the same magazine in 1992, we recorded it in Miami and nobody wanted to take responsibility for the production. Nobody wanted to bring in an outside person for help, and no one wanted the whole band to produce it. So they left it all to me. And around this time, according to a couple of people in the back, Iommi had begun a friendship with Brian May, guitarist from Queen. Apparently, according to one story, Ozzy in particular, he said in one interview, Iommi went and saw Queen in the studio and figured, let's see if we could try those same techniques on the Black Sabbath record. All right. All right. And of course, to make matters worse for the band, Don Arden, who was their new manager at the time, began spending more of his time focusing on other of his acts Electric Light Orchestra being one of them, whose 75 album, Face the Music, was about to make the US top 10. All right. All right.
What's your favorite song off the album?
Oh, my favorite song would have to be maybe it's a tough one because I guess you could say my favorite have to be All Moving Parts Stand Still.
We're getting into some deep stuff, man. What's the next
Deep.
album?
Oh, Never
How
Say
many more?
Die.
How many more albums?
Well, this one here and the one that came years afterwards, 2013's 13.
Yes.
This one, Never Say Die, came out in 1978. It would be their last record with Ozzy for a good number of years until the album I just mentioned, 13, would be recorded. And like the previous album, Technical Ecstasy, Never Say Die featured the same approach, the same ideas, a lot more keyboards in some of the songs. Never Say Die was an inspirational song about never giving up the ship. The second song for that album, Johnny Blade, is about an individual on the streets, a knife wielding guy who's angry at the world and society. Junior's Eyes is a touching one because that was Ozzy saying goodbye to his dad, who was very, very ill at that time. A Hard Road, which closes out side one, was basically the Sabs saying, hey, it's a hard road you have to go through to reach your goal, which is a lot of ways their version of it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. Side two kicks in with a song called Shockwave. And the song Air Dance, by the way, is kind of a ballad when you think about it, with a very somber overtone. It's about a woman who views pictures of herself when she was able to dance, but unable to now. Over to You is kind of like Ozzy talking to his wife at that time. Why are you mad at me? What did I do? Breakout is an instrumental featuring a horn section of all things. And the last track from that whole album, Swing It the Chain, features vocals by, again, Bill Ward, their drummer. And like I mentioned, like Technical Ecstasy, this one was kind of like on the same approach in terms of musical direction. And here's the kicker. The band would go on tour that year featuring a new band up and coming on the same record label that they were in the States, Van Halen. Yep, Van Halen opened for Black Sabbath during that tour. And word has it that Van Halen was blowing Black Sabbath off stage. Because Sabbath at that time, they were allowing the drugs to kick in left and right, dismantled the members personally, musically, and everything else. And after that tour was done, Ozzy was getting so into the drugs that finally Tony made the decision and Bill Ward did the deed. He called up Ozzy and informed him that Ozzy was no longer with the band. Now, of course, the original lineup reunited a couple times before.
This is the last album of back then, besides the new album.
Yes, this was the last record.
You could say this was the last record. So,
well, pretty much for the. Well,
would you say
at that time, yes.
Yeah, at the time, would you say out of all the 7 or how many original
9
records? 9.
Well, actually, it was 9 records they did together.
What would you say is the deepest track one? Would you say the Never Say Die is the most deepest tracks? And
I think probably the most surprise deep track would have to be Air Dance, Breakout, Johnny Blade, or Hard Road. Very deep stuff. The whole album is deep when you think about it. I think the only hit song from that album was the title cut, which look up the performance that they did on Top of the Pops that same year. And then around that time, new bands like The Damned, The Clash, The Sex Pistols were making it big. And it says here, Sabbath finally found themselves unsure of their musical direction and labeled as has-beens.
But some of the songs are still good, Brown.
I know, yes. No,
but I think it's
they
the
are.
I think it's the least. I don't know. It'd be like what's that? What's the album that AC/DC came out in the '90s?
Which one?
Ball Breaker or
Ball Breaker, yes. 1995 that record came
yeah,
out.
like it's like the AC/DC's Ball Breaker album. It's like their least. You know what I mean? It's like their least known, least played one. They probably don't play any songs off that album on any of their live tours. You know what I'm saying? Like we're really getting into the ending. Now, their last album from what
2013. The album
2013.
called 13. Yes, that was the first record. That was the first Sabbath record. Yeah, good songs on that one. Yo, Loner. Yo, what's the name of that one?
God is dead.
No.
No,
let's
that's
see.
a good song. Is God dead? God is dead.
Oh, I thought you said Doctor's dead. Yo, is God is dead? Question mark. That was a good one. That was played on the radio a lot. End of the beginning or beginning of the end. No, end of the beginning. That was actually, you know what? That album went to #1 in the US. It went to #1. It was a big success. You know, let me look up more info about that album.
Do you own this album still, or?
I never really got a copy of this album, but I heard many songs from it courtesy of YouTube. In fact, it was the final studio album for Black Sabbath altogether. It came out in June of 2013 through Vertigo Records in the US, and it came out here in the States on Republic Records, coincided with Vertigo. I guess they had a US division. I guess Republic Records picked it up. And it says here it was about 18 years between albums they did with Ozzy. It was 18 years. Actually, according to this, it was their first studio album in 18 years, the longest gap between albums since 1995's Forbidden with Tony Martin on vocals. It was also the first studio album with original singer Ozzy Osbourne, bassist Geezer Butler since the live album Reunion, and also contained new studio tracks. It was also the first studio album with Osbourne since Never Say Die, and with Butler on Cross Purposes. And the original lineup began their work in 2001 with producer Rick Rubin. The development was delayed over a 10-year period as Osbourne resumed his solo career, with the rest of the band members went on to other projects, including Heaven and Hell, GZR. When Sabbath announced the end of their hiatus on November 2011, they announced that they would restart work on a new album with Rubin, with all original members.
Brown, can you add or can you send the link to Danny MT? Do you have a connection to him?
Let me look him up on the. Is the link in your chat by no chance?
I'll put it in there right now, brother.
Yeah, it's right there. We're going to put it in your chat there, Danny MT, so you can join in as well.
Can you message him on social media?
Let me find him on Discord. That's the only way I'm able to get a hold of him.
All right.
Okay.
Here, I'll read some on Tentacle Ecstasy while you do that. Give me a minute here.
All right, there. We're also on. Let's see here.
Oh yeah.
We're on the 13, the album that came out in 2013. It was their final studio album altogether.
Well, here, let me finish up on Never Say Die. Let me say something on that. Can you still hear me, Brown?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right, so that was 78. What's up with the cover, the album cover on that? Who was that? Members of Black Sabbath in these masks? These like airplane fighting pilot masks? Or?
I'm not too sure what those figures were. I guess they were airborne fighters, I guess, what I understand. But the cover was, I gotta look that up sometime. but I know the cover was done by the group I mentioned previously, Hypnosis, Storm Thorgerson, and Aubrey Powell, who did album covers for Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Al Parsons Project, 10cc, a couple for Black Sabbath, and one for AC/DC. By the way, we got to get into a discussion on album covers, our best, worst, and favorites sometime soon.
Yeah,
definitely got to get into that. But let me look it up here.
You know about
Danny.
The song "Evil Eye"? Was it written by Eddie Van Halen?
Evil Eye. No, that's one with that's one for the Tony Martin era from 1994.
Well, people are saying Eddie Van Halen crafted that song or worked with Naomi on that song. Did you ever hear something about that?
Not that I know of, really, for that sure.
Man.
I'm still trying to find Danny MT on social media, for crying out loud. Why does it not do this to me for some dumb reason?
Get your thick ass on the call.
Tell you what, you should put the StreamYard link in the chat. It's here.
Yes.
All right, there. Okay, Danny, the StreamYard check is in the chat here. And definitely join in on the call and get on the conversation with us. It's been a while since we heard from you, my brother. Anyways, 13 became a massive success.
Wait, closing statements on Never Say Die. Do you have a favorite song on there real quick?
My favorite would have to be Johnny Blade, the second track from side one, because it is definitely power, and plus the content of the song, most definitely.
I think that's the most well-known song off that album. Would you agree with that?
No, have you heard the whole album altogether?
No, I only heard Metallica cover
so.
that song. I only heard Metallica cover that song. Is it good?
It is good. The whole album is pretty good. Junior's Eyes is just as good as well. Guns N' Roses did that song at the back on that concert as well. Now, the album, going back to 13, Loner, End of the Beginning, God is Dead, release and promotion of the album. It received positive reviews from critics. Praise was directed at the band's songwriting and performance abilities several decades after their formation, though the album was cited as a product of the Loudness War, having compromised a sound quality as a result of an overly compressed dynamic range. At the 56 Grammy Awards in 2014, the band won the Grammy Award for Best Metal Performance for the song Is God Dead? 13 also went to #1 in several countries, including the States, UK. It was later certified gold by the British phonographic industry for selling 1,000 copies in the United Kingdom. And the album was also certified platinum in Brazil, Germany, Canada, and in Poland. And by the way, this was also the first Sabbath album with the original lineup. Well, actually, 3/4 of the original lineup without Bill Ward. Apparently, some issues came about with him in terms of contracts, payments, money, and stuff.
On the Never Say Die album, no Bill Ward, or on the 13 album?
13.
So it was that Tommy Clufetto strummer?
I think it was drummer Brad Wilk from Rage Against the Machine who played on that album. Yeah, I remember reading a story about that. I'm looking it up right now. All right, Darren.
And if you want to donate to the show, go to the Joe Cronin Show platform. Donate to Joe Cronin Show. Professional wrestling. Thank you.
And by the way, this is around the time that Iommi was dealing with his own cancer issue. He was in the early stages of what is called lymphoma. I guess lymphoma, if that's pronounced. It's a group of blood and lymph tumors that develop from what's it called, lymphocytes, if that's if that's pronounced correctly. The name typically refers to just the cancerous versions rather than all such tumors. Signs and symptoms may include enlarged lymph nodes, fever, drenching sweats, unattended weight loss, itching, and constantly feeling weak. This was unexpectedly because the this kind of like put things on hold for the time. Because of his diagnosis, the work sessions for the album were to take place in Los Angeles, were quickly moved to Iommi's home in England. And in February 2012, Ward publicly announced that he would not participate in this album unless he was given what is called a signable contract. The following day, the other group members announced they had no choice but to continue recording without him, but also said our door is always open for Ward to return to the band. In February the same year, the band announced that they would not continue the world tour, but play the Download Festival in 2012 in June of that year. Instead of Black Sabbath, the group would feature Ozzy and a revolving lineup of guest musicians, billed as Ozzy and Friends. In April of that year, Lollapalooza founder Perry Farrell announced that Black Sabbath would perform at Lollapalooza 2012, and Farrell said that this would be Sabbath's only American concert that year. And then later that year, Ward posted on his website that, quote, after a final effort to participate in the upcoming Black Sabbath shows, a failure to agree has continued. And they will not be participating in any reunion shows, but would remain open-minded and a position of willingness to negotiate signable terms with Sabbath's representatives in the future. So Ward was cropped out of the photos on blacksabbath.com as well as their Facebook page, which to me was bullshit. Butler released a statement expressing sadness at the decision. He further unveiled that drummer Tommy Kalufos was rehearsing with them in England. Yep. There we go. Now, the band had written 14 songs so far, and said it was a good clue that the album would be called. It was going to be called 2013, but they decided to shorten to 13 as a result. It was also announced that Brad Wilk from Rage Against the Machine and Audioslave had also joined in on the recording sessions just as well. Now, here's something else. And at the beginning was also featured on an episode of CSI Miami. Look towards that video. Black Sabbath and at the beginning. Black Sabbath appeared on an episode opening segment on CSI Miami. They're performing the song on some location in Miami, in a club, I guess. And look for it for yourself there. And they decided to make a whole video of that just as well, of the band performing that song.
Thanks, babe.
Mm-hmm.
Is there one of the songs?
Way, God.
Is one of the songs called Thanks, Babe?
No, not that I know of. Okay, and the songs on that album, let me get down here to it. And at the beginning, is God dead? No, God is dead, question mark. Of course, Loner, Zeitgeist, Age of Reason, Live Forever, Damaged Soul, Dear Father. And the end of that song, Dear Father, the album's closing track, features thunder, rain, just like it began with the first Black Sabbath album. Now, the Spotify bonus tracks include Methodemic, Peace of Mind, Pariah, and a live version of Dirty Women from 2013. All right. And all the lyrics, by the way, were of course written by Geezer Butler, except for one by Ozzy Osbourne. And all the music is composed by Tony Iommi, Osbourne, and Butler. Remember, Ozzy is dyslexic, so it makes
Yes.
him hard for him to read, by the way. All right. All right, so there we go. All 9 albums by Black Sabbath, the original lineup, featuring Ozzy Osbourne. And next week, we're going to get into the Black Sabbath albums featuring Ronnie James Dio, Ian Gillan, Tony Martin, and a few others as well. We definitely got to get into that one because when people think of other Sabbath singers, they think of just Ronnie James Dio. Well, we're going to enlighten the people about that situation just as well next week. And I'm surprised Danny's not on the call yet.
Yeah. All right, Brown, would you like to close out the show, brother? And plug your channel
Garrett.
and then plug your weekend DJ set.
Well, I'm not doing a weekend DJ set for this weekend. Probably next week I'll probably do another one. But this weekend I'm just be focusing on work and everything else. But all in all, ladies and gentlemen, subscribe to my channel, Dr. Earl W. Brown. You will not regret it. And also subscribe to this channel, Music Maniax 2025. Look forward to seeing you next week on the new episode. Like I said, we're going to be focusing on all the other albums Black Sabbath did with other singers, Ryan James Dio included. Thank you, YR, my brother, and we'll see you all next week. Take care.
Take care, my brother.
Mm-hmm.